Hey guys, tonight we crawl through cracked nursery windows, back to when science wore petticoats and curiosity smelled like candle wax. Picture Germany, 1660, you're 7 years old, knees gritty from garden dirt. Dolls bore you, their porcelain faces too still, too silent. But that beetle scuttling under the hydrangea, that's a mechanical marvel, jointed armor, iridescent hinges. Historians still argue whether Maria's obsession began here or earlier. Watching silkworms spin morality tailies for her printer father. You pocket fallen chrysalises like stolen jewels. Feel their papery cases crinkle against your palm. Midnight finds you crouched in a linen closet, stolen candle stub, melting wax onto oak floorboards. Your sketchbook stays hidden under loose floor tiles. Mother calls insects Satan's eyelashes. But you know better. That moth beating against the window. You'll name it Ghost Wing, its thorax dusted like baker's flour. Here's the mainstream nugget. Your teacher skipped, Maria's stepfather ran a flower painting sweatshop. Petals for rich Dutch ladies, beetles crushed for carmine dye. You learn to dissect wings with embroidery needles, chart vein patterns, while neighbors gossip about your odd humors. One quirky tidbit. She preserved specimens in vinegar, the same stuff her mom used for pickling herring. Imagine dinner conversations. Pass the beetles, dear, though honestly, you'd trade 3 courses for 1 peek at her shadow drawings. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment. Where's your screen glowing right now? Kyoto, Rio, somewhere pretending to work a night shift. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're tracing antennae curls when Mama finds your hoard. A jar of dead grasshoppers rolls under the bed. Her scream could shatter churches. Demons, she wails, but you're counting leg segments, wondering why Genesis forgot arthropods. The punishment, embroidering altar cloths, thorny roses for Sunday eyes. You turn obedience into rebellion, stitch hidden caterpillars among the blossoms. Their tiny thread mouths devour holy leaves. 3 winters pass. You master sideways glances draw while stirring soup, sketch mid-prayer. Your quill gambles with time. Finish the Lord's Prayer before the ink dries. God's words blur, your beetle margin notes crisp and alive. At 14, you trade sermons for Metamorphosis. That cocoon in your apron, it hatches during Vespers, green wings unfolding like forbidden psalms. You name it after your first crush, the butcher's boy, who gave you a rat's skull riddled with mites. Candle smoke seasons your lungs, parchment warps under repeated erasures. You discover something revolutionary. Bugs change their clothes. Not just once, but multiple times, like actors in a never-ending play. The candle dies. Dawn fingers pry through shutters. You're left with smudged fingers and a truth too bright to share. Yet, the library's oak door groans, a sound you'll later associate with grief's first tremor. Your 12-year-old fingers clutch a moth-eaten shawl your father once draped over sleepy shoulders. His printing press sits cold now, platen rusting, ink balls hardening like embittered hearts. 17th century fact: widows inherit debts, not studios, but grief carves strange passageways. You vanish into pages where Latin nouns glisten like beetle wings. You memorize terms by candle flicker: Lepidoptera for scaled wings, Coleoptera for sheathed ones. Historians still argue whether a sympathetic tutor slipped you grammar books, or if you absorbed dead languages through vellum osmosis. Either way, you conjugate verbs to the click of palmetto bugs scuttling across shelves. Quirky tidbit: that ostrich-egg globe in the rare book's vault. You mistake its continents for moth wing patterns until the librarian yanks it away. Midnight finds you mouthing Metamorphosis passages, words tart as unripe mulberries. Your mother thinks you're stitching linens. Instead, you dissect lies. Silk doesn't spawn from dead horses' monays. Caterpillars don't spontaneously generate from mud. Each truth hums louder than psalmody, a heretical lullaby. Breadcrumbs of wax harden on desks. You map insect life cycles between theology texts. The librarian accidentally locks you in thrice, claiming your whispers unsettle the archived saints. You'd apologize, but dead theologians make poor company compared to diving beetles. Their iridescent backs glint brighter than any stained glass martyr. One night, a discovery. Foxed pages detailing Antwerp's butterfly menageries. Your charcoal smudges a pope's disapproving margin note, replacing his finis with a Luna moth's sinuous spine. When dawn licks the windows, you've redrawn 7 species from memory. Their Latin names nest in your mind, ready to hatch. The linseed oil hits first, a greasy tang clinging to your mother's new wedding band. Step-papa Jacob Merrill's studio sprawls where father's press once stood, brushes soaking in walnut shells. Dried beetles sprawled like fallen generals. Mainstream historical footnote: guilds bar women from apprenticeships, but family workshops. Those loopholes stink of turpentine and compromise. He thrusts a squirrel hair brush into your ink-stained hand. Sketch that stag beetle legs splayed. You glance at the specimen, iridescent elytra split open, organs glistening. Quirky tidbit: Merrill's favorite crimson pigment comes from crushed cochineal bugs, secret ingredient in his commission for the archbishop's ceremonial robes. You wonder if holy men know they're wearing parasite blood. Dragonfly wings tear like wet rice paper. You learn to pin thoraxes without crushing ovipositors. Science whispers in dissections: this muscle flexes the wing, this vein feeds the eye. Art hisses back: shadow the joint here, smudge the gut there. Historians still argue whether Merrill resented your precision or feared being outshone. His ledger notes mention the girl's tolerable hand. If prone to frivolous detail, your mother frets over pigment-stained aprons, her third best linen ruined by madder root. No husband wants a wife who smells like a tanner's vat. You counter by painting her a bouquet of cadaver flies, thorax dots, mimicking pearl beads. She hangs it in the kitchen, argues it's modern. Nights, you grind lapis lazuli into ultramarine powder, so costly Merrill keeps it chained to his desk. You swipe pinches for moth antennae. By dawn, your fingernails glow like bruised twilight. A joke circulates at market, the Merian girl blues. You wear it like a badge, better than husband hunter. One December morn crisis. A Spanish client demands orchid illustrations. Merrill's last assistant painted petals as lumpy as tavern dumplings. You volunteer silent, sweating as he watches you crosshatch a libellum's velvet throat. The client murmurs, almost lifelike. Merrill pockets the coins, tosses you a dried cicada. For the eyes, you discover the inverse, then art as dissection. Peel back layers of light and shadow. Find the skeleton beneath the beauty. That beetle he dismissed as frivolous. Its illustrated legs now hold Euclid's perfect angles. That moth wings smudged with too much umber. It reveals the Fibonacci spiral of scales. When Merrill leaves for Frankfurt, called to paint some dukes grotesque, you pocket his forgotten scalpels. The studio becomes your cathedral. You section a rose chafer, jewel green carapace, giving way to milky ganglia. Viscous hemolymph stains your cuffs. You sketch fast before the wonder rots. Visitors recoil at pinned heads of houseflies, their compound eyes gleaming like blackberries. You grin, offer them licorice root. They're just watching you back. A Hessian merchant's wife faints. Merrill docks your indigo ration for 3 weeks. Spring thaws the odor river and your step-papa's mood. He returns with contracts for medicinal herbals. The Antwerp apothecary wants 50 plates, root structures, no imaginative flights. You nod, bite your tongue. But when he leaves, you sneak in gall wasps drilling into stems. Let the apothecaries puzzle over that. By your 17th summer, you've buried 6 paintbrushes in the garden, their bristles frayed to nubs. A row of tiny crosses marks each grave. You pretend it's whimsy, not a memorial for hours lost to others' commissions. The 7th brush survives, tipped with Kolinsky fur, stolen from Merrill's locked cabinet. It glides across vellum like a water strider skating on pond scum. Your mother finds you. Her knuckles whiten around the doorframe, silk sleeves swallowing that stolen Kolinsky brush. The Graff boy's family arrives at 4, she says. Cologne water can't mask her panic sweat. Mainstream fact, your groom-to-be's textile merchant clan needs your stepfather's guild connections. Love letters aren't part of the dowry. Johann Andreas Graff smells of starch and camphor. His boots pinch from Frankfurt cobblestones. You count his eyebrow hairs during the betrothal toast, 18 on the left, 23 on the right. Quirky tidbit. His mother gifts you bed linens embroidered with herbarium motifs. Time for courage. Rue for virtue. You'll later boil the threads for green dye. Wedding night, he fumbles at your laces. You distract him with a cicada shell perched on the canopy. See how its exuvia splits down the thoracic ridge. He mistakes your entomology for flirtation. Historians still argue whether Graff supported your work or simply tolerated its market value. His ledgers show profits from your botanical prints, but no payment to your name. Domesticity becomes taxonomy. The Nuremberg townhouse kitchen classifies itself. Drawer 1 for copper sulfate blues, 2 for eggshell whites, 3 for arsenic-laced rat bait repurposed as preservative. A joke for the neighbors. Frau Graf's pantry could poison a battalion or paint their portraits. Your daughters, swaddling cloths double as blotting paper, infant vomit mingles with carmine stains. Mama, why does Anna's bonnet have legs? Dorothea asks, pointing at the pinned mantis hatchlings. You swipe a grub from little Helena's ear, sneak it into your pocket for later study. The garden rebels on your behalf. Pumpkin vines strangle Johann's prized cabbages. Their leaves pocked by leaf miner trails you're documenting. You forget to deter the aphids. Let their sticky honeydew speckle his imported tulips. At night, you stalk cabbage whites by lantern light, their pale wings translucent as Lutheran sermon notes. Johann complains about the stink of rotting specimens. You counter by preserving a mouse carcass in aquavit. Display it framed above the hearth. Memento mori, you tell guests. His trading partners christen it the brandy rat toast to your eccentric charm. 2 pregnancies miscarry blood clots like mulberry pulp in the chamber pot. The midwife whispers of hysterical humors from sketchbook fumes. You chronicle each loss in code. Day 17, failed eclosion. Garden warfare escalates. You plant milkweed to lure monarchs. Their caterpillars skeletonize Johann's rosebuds. He retaliates with a hired boy to salt the soil. Survival rates drop until you find the lad examining a ladybug's spotted elytra. Bribe him with gingerbread. Data secured. The birth of your 3rd living child coincides with a Luna moth's emergence. You time contractions between sketches, lungs burning as the midwife chides. You'll smother the babe with parchment dust. When Johann demands a 4th son, you gift him a tome on parthenogenesis. Certain insects self-conceive, my dear. He locks himself in the counting house for 3 days, returns with ledgers reeking of panic and ink. Your magnum opus thrives under gooseberry bushes. 47 chrysalises hang like forbidden jewelry, each tagged with sewing threads from your hem. Historians would later carbon date those fibers. Provenance debates now occupying entire symposia. You just crave their metamorphic truth, proof that even earthbound things sprout wings. The girls learn to distinguish painted ladies from red admirals before they can name their letters. Dorothea sketches pupy margins, her lines steadier than yours. At market, you catch her lecturing the fishmonger on mayfly lifespans. Pride swells, then contracts. Guilds won't accept her either. One humid August night crisis, Johann discovers your covert breeding jars. Vinegar eels spiral in pickling brine whiptail scorpions scuttle behind preserves. This is a godly home, not some alchemist's den. Glass shatters, specimens flee across floorboards, silent judgment in eight-legged retreats. You salvage what you can. A single Indian meal moth survives, its larvae chewing through Johann's ledgers. The ledger for damages section now includes silkworm casualties and missing damask napkins. Suspect jumping spiders. By the fire's ash, you isolate cochineal dye from ruined linens. Red swirls in the basin, your hands incarnadine to the wrist. Johann's shadow looms. You let him assume its menstrual blood. The lie feels holy. Your final garden census: 38 cabbage whites tagged, 12 swallowtails emerged, 7 spiderlings named after archangels. Johann's boots crush 3. You bury them under the pear tree, tiny shrouds of muslin scraps. Their silk still clings to your thumbnail as you pack. The lawyer arrives at harvest moon. Divorce petitions demand moral grounds. Your defense cites Proverbs 6. 6. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. The magistrate snickers into his powdered wig. Last night in Nuremberg, you swap your wedding band for powdered azurite. The merchant eyes your ring, then your daughter's clutching specimen boxes. Madame, this barely covers half. You add your mother's pearl earrings, their luster outshone by beetle wing iridescence in your palm. Dawn finds you on a hay cart, girls asleep against pinned butterfly boards. The driver eyes your jars of wolf spiders. Extra fare for venomous cargo. You pay in ladybird engravings, 6 per mile. Stubble fields blur past. Helena stirs, pointing at a buzzing cloud. Cicadas, you ask. She shakes her head, larval breath warm against your ear. Forestry mites, riding the beetles west. You laugh until your ribs ache, the road ahead pixelating through unshed tears. The Amsterdam printer's shop reeks of walnut oil, incongruously posh for cobweb rafters, sagging with damp. You barter 3 goldfinch studies for typesetting, their plumage dimmed by typesetters' thumbs. Mainstream fact: your caterpillar's volume will debut with hand-colored plates, revolutionary for 1679. The printer eyes your daughters sanding copper plates. Shouldn't they be stitching samplers? You remind him his wage depends on their steady hands. Proofs arrive smeared with egg yolk, Dorothea's breakfast bribes, to keep Helena quiet. You correct Latin binomials by firelight. Bomix, Maury becomes Bomix matriarcha in the margin. Quirky tidbit: rumor claims you blended nail clippings into the indigo vat. Texts now fluoresce under UV light. You'll neither confirm nor deny. The title page rankles. Frau Maria Sibylla Graf's observations. Shackled to marital dust, you scratch out Graf with a razored quill. Ink bleeds, a satisfying hemorrhage. Critics swarm faster than carrion beetles. A Leiden professor dismisses your work as household divertissements. His review arrives blotched with wine stains. You mail him a hornet's nest, postage unpaid. Historians still argue whether your subsequent expulsion from the Lutheran Church stemmed from heresy or tax evasion. The records conveniently sparse. Your kitchen transforms into a symposium. Women in starch-stiff collars cluster around your dissection table. Their husbands assume they're learning pastry crimping. You demonstrate a cabbage moth's proboscis coil. Imagine unspooling your corset through a keyhole. You murmur. Nervous giggles thaw into questions. Publication day dawns with a misprint. Page 42 declares caterpillars incapable of wascosity. You let it stand. Let the scholars splutter. Sales crawl, then surge. Noblewomen commission you to paint their gardens' pests. You upsell them on habitat dioramas, stag beetles, posed with miniature Versailles topiaries. A joke at the Leipzig Book Fair. Frau Graf could taxonomy the devil's own flea collection. The girls thrive in the chaos. Dorothea masters cross-hatching her aphid renderings outclass yours. Helena develops a system. Cucumber slices on the eyes during tedious dissections. Prevents retinal fatigue, she insists. You adopt the practice, much to your optician's confusion. Male naturalists visit, ostensibly to admire your charming vignettes. They probe for methodology. You serve them oversteeped valerian tea. Watch their eyelids droop mid-interrogation. Winter brings vindication. A parcel arrives from England, crumbling cocoons, wrapped in psalms. The note's tense script begs identification, signed by a vicar's wife, facing bedlam for her unholy brood. You respond within the week. Postscript invites her to skip psalms and try parchment, steaming for hatching success. Spring unspools disasters. A papal envoy orders 50 deluxe editions. Your gold leaf stores dwindle. Girls grind malachite past midnight, their coughs turning viridian. You intercept a love letter to Dorothea from the typesetter's apprentice. Trade corrections for chamomile salve. Profit margins spin tighter than a silkworm's thread. At the Frankfurt Book Fair, a man in a beaver fur hat corners you. Madame, these metamorphosis theories, his breath smells of pickled herring. Do you imply creatures improve through transformation? Almost evolutionist. You shrug. Moths don't debate ontology. They simply eat, mate, and burn toward lamps. He leaves clutching his copy like a stolen relic. Dutch winters ink your lungs. Hack-spoiled handkerchiefs bloom rust red. Helena surreptitiously catalogs their patterns. You switch to etching through fevers, tremors lending your swallowtails jagged, urgent lines. A visiting physician diagnoses humoral imbalance and prescribes pigeon blood tonics. You gift the vial to a silk farm. Watch larvae thrash in crimson droplets. The guild tries to tax your insect models as luxury figurines. You counter with a 6-foot tapeworm drawing labeled internal revenue. Bureaucrats retreat. Your magnum opus goes to reprint, 8 new species added. The publisher demands endorsements. You list Luther's Catechism, and an anonymous HRH gossip claims it's Henrietta Maria, but you'll never tell. Church bells toll vespers as you sign the last copy. a personal edition for the midwife who saved Helena. The colophon bears a hidden sigil, 3 caterpillars, forming a treble clef. 300 years later, musicologists will waste dissertations on its meaning. You just liked the curve. Rain sheets against the shop shutters. The girls sleep curled in paper nests, proof sheets for blankets. Your lantern gutters, you relight it with a burning focus. Wings, jaws, antennae fine as lute strings. The world hums in your peripheral vision, a great, chitinous heartbeat. Somewhere, Graf remarries, a woman who'll never count his eyebrow hairs. Somewhere, clergy denounce your unnatural diagrams. Here, in the inky womb of your making, a Luna moth flexes newborn wings, each eye spot a perfect eclipse. Helena sleep mumbles, the vicar's wife wrote again. You tuck a quill behind her ear, its tip still glistening with cochineal. Dawn licks the window panes, another night devoured whole. The scratching continues, pest or pen. The difference hardly matters now. The guild's letter arrives stained with hurry, thin ink splatters, accusing you of moral dissolution and unsanctioned inquiry. Your daughters practice their Latin verbs in the next room, oblique cases muffled by oak. Mainstream fact whispers through the vellum. In 1692, divorce still requires bribing a bishop and burning 7 years' dowry. You weigh Graf's signet ring, a frog crest against a pawnbroker's scale. Dorothea discovers you packing leather satchels. We're leaving winter, you say, handing her a jar of preserved spider silk. Helena counts your ink vials. Only 19. She pockets a squirrel hair brush, says nothing. The town crier announces your excommunication 3 streets away. You mistake it for a fishmonger's advertisement. Amsterdam's docks stink of fermented herring and ambition. Sailors hawk guaranteed anti-scurvy amulets, dried lemons strung on catgut. You trade your wedding goblet for a berth under the ratlins. Historians still argue whether you fled Calvinist censure or creditors. The ship's manifest lists you as cargo. 1 widow, 2 crates of artistic sundries. Your cabin shrinks by the hour. Maps curl like dead millipedes. A crewman warns against sketching storms. Bad luck to trap Poseidon's rage on paper. You draw the mast, cracking anyway cross-hatched lightning tastes like vindication. Quirky tidbit drifts up with the tide. Ship's logs note your peculiar laundry, shirts stained strange blues and suspicious powders. The captain sniffs your drying chemise. Smells like a witch's pantry. You smile. Lapis lazuli and crushed cockroach wings, standard pigments. He stops asking questions. Nights hum with rigging. You teach the girls stellar navigation using moth migration patterns. Orion's belt aligns with the death's head hawkmoth's markings. You murmur tracing constellations on Helena's palm. She corrects you. That's the thorax, not the nebula. Mid-Atlantic squalls shred your best parchment. Salt crusts your eyelashes. You lick it off and label the flavor. Briny with a hint of albatross guano, Dorothea quips her first joke in weeks. Helena invents a game. Name 3 parasites before the hourglass empties. You win with bedbugs, tapeworms, and ex-husbands. The cook slips extra hardtack into your apron, charred edges charmed into butterfly shapes. For the insect ladies, he grunts. You reciprocate with a sketch his face, merged with a dung beetle's armored gleam. He pins it above the galley, declares it truer than a mirror. 23 days in landfall fever infects the crew. Sailors trade nails for your valerian tinctures. The first mate confesses he's never seen the ocean. Terrifying, isn't it? You nod toward the horizon, like confronting God's sketchbook before he inked the borders. Tropical heat slaps you at Suriname's shore, thick as a wet woolen cloak. A sugar planter eyes your dissection kit. What'll you trade for access to our plantations? You offer French lace. He scoffs. Helena steps forward, extends a vial of mercury. For your syphilis, she says. Deal struck. Ants christen your boots within hours. You document their march across your skirt, mandibles hauling leaf fragments twice their size. Dorothea sketches while swatting mosquitoes. Are we still Lutheran? She asks. You point to a scarab struggling up a vine. We're whatever that is. The jungle swallows your prior life whole. No space for graphs, sneers, or Gilder's ode. Here, decay gleams, beetles jeweled like papal rings, fungi blooming from rot. You inhale petrichor and possibility. The ship's bell fades behind you each step, crunching louder than the last excommunication. Suriname's heat licks your face like a predator's tongue. Thick air clogs your lungs as you step onto soil that shivers with centipedes. The ship's crew unloads your crates with gloved hands. They've seen your pinned specimens and prefer typhoons to tarantulas. Dorothea wrinkles her nose at the stench of rotting mangroves. Smells like graph stockings, she mutters. Helena corrects her. 32% plant decay, 68% despair. Dutch planters swarm the docks, their wigs wilted onto sweaty collars. One offers a carriage ride inland. His smile reveals more vacancies than teeth. You decline. Historians will later note this as the first European settlement she bypassed, choosing, instead, to haul supplies toward Maroon villages. Mainstream textbooks omit the reason. The smell of sugarcane burns your sinuses worse than lie. Your mule cart creaks under jars of formaldehyde. The driver, a boy of 14, eyes your dissection scalpel. You hunt jaguars. You shake your head, pluck a weevil from your sleeve. Just these little kings. He stares. You add, because sarcasm translates poorly, it's for science. He spits, tells you science tastes like bat droppings here. Shadows deepen as the jungle tightens its grip. Howler monkeys scream critique. You jot notes by firefly light ink splotching the page where a spider claims your nib. Locals said Maroon communities might trade secrets, anti-venom recipes for needles. Quirky tidbit scholars love to cherry pick. Your journal mentions using termite nests as inkstands. No footnote explains termite bites left your thumbs swollen for weeks. Helena finds you arguing with a troop of capuchins over a stolen quill. They're better thieves than Graf, she observes, tossing a mango to distract them. You reclaim the quill, it's snapped in half. Dorothea presents a solution, hollowed out thorns as makeshift pens. Her hands tremble less here, no one's judging a widow's calligraphy. Nightfall brings opera of unseen creatures. You lie awake, the girls snoring, and count 6 new spider species on the tent's ceiling. One drips venom onto your blanket, iridescent and thick as regret. You bottle it, label the vile potential. Historians still argue whether your obsession was methodology or mania. They've never tasted discovery this sharp. Dawn reveals orchids growing from carcasses. You sketch them, roots plunging into ribcages, while Dorothea boils water. They're beautiful, she says, meaning the flowers. Helena stirs bromide into the broth. Dead things make better soil, she counters. You sip the brackish tea. It tastes like Amsterdam's canals, filtered through tree bark. The mule balks at a river crossing. The driver mutters about caimans. You point to tadpoles skating across the surface. Harmless you lie. He wades in water rising to his knees. Midstream, a stingray lurches up. His scream scatters egrets. You're already drawing its barbed tail, the paper warping in humid air. Flatten it for the sketch, Dorothea yells, slapping your journal onto a rock. Villages appear as smudges of smoke. A woman in indigo offers cassava. Her toddler clutches your skirt, fingers sticky with fruit pulp. You trade a silver thimble for directions to the butterflies that drink tears. The girl pockets a beetle from your satchel. She names it grandfather and lets it crawl into her hair. Rain arrives without warning, warm as blood, drenching your powder reserves. Helena salvages char, sticks from the fire, grinds them into pigment. Now we're making art like cave people, she smirks. You light a candle. Its flame bends under the downpour's breath. The driver asks why you're smiling. You don't mention the guild's letters dissolving in your pocket. 3 weeks inland, your compass fails. Ferns thicker than cathedral doors block the path. Dorothea spots a trail of bullet ants, follows their line toward higher ground. Better than following men, she declares. You agree, though your ankles swell from their bites. At dusk, the canopy thins. Stars emerge, not the Dutch sky's rigid constellations, but a chaos of light. You name a new cluster scarab's spite. Helena argues it's just a smudge on your spectacles. The mule collapses on day 27. You dissect it, tissue ripe with botfly larvae, while the driver weeps. He refuses to touch the meat, calls it cursed. You dry strips over the fire. Hunger's the only curse here, you say, offering him a portion. He accepts at moonrise, teeth sinking into what he names the devil's jerky. Your first Surinamese moth lands at midnight, wings wider than your palm. It dies in the lantern's glow, antennae still twitching. You pin it, careful not to smudge the prismatic scales. Dorothea sketches its chrysalis phase from memory. Helena critiques the shading. Accuracy matters, she snaps. You almost remind her perfection's a myth, then notice her hands are copying your tremors. The jungle hums approval as you pack the specimen. Somewhere a jaguar coughs. Somewhere a Dutch vicar blots his sermon. Here a daughter's charcoal strokes capture infinity between a moth's veins. You blow out the lantern, let darkness swallow every unspoken rule. Jungle nights swallow you whole, frog choruses, vibrating the humid air like 1,000 wet violins. You crouch by a rotting log, the reek of fungus clinging to your petticoats, and wait. Fireflies flicker green-gold punctuation marks in the dark. Historians will call this observation groundbreaking, the first European documentation of Pyrophorus noctilucus. Though you're too busy swatting mosquitoes to care, Helena mutters about leeches in her boots. Dorothea hums a Dutch hymn off-key. A bat dive bombs your lantern. You flinch, ink splattering acrobatic asshole across the page. The driver, still chewing devil's jerky, points to a tree. Moonlight's better for bugs than fire, he insists. You humor him, dousing the flame and gasp. The bark glows, bioluminescent fungi curdling the wood like spoiled milk. Your hand trembles, sketching the neon lattice. Blame the humidity or the 8 cups of bitter cacao brew. Some fringe theorists insist cacao's psychoactive here, claim it birthed your visionary color palettes. Reality's simpler. You need to piss every 17 minutes, nature's most predatory diuretic. A firefly alights on your journal, abdomen pulsing. You pin it mid-glow, wings splayed, its light fading as you label the jar. Dorothea wrinkles her nose. Killing what you admire. You don't answer, too busy noting how its dying flashes sync with your pulse. Helena lobs a mango pit into the dark. Look alive. Something's watching. Leaves rustle. A spectral owl swoops low, talons grazing your wig. The driver crosses himself. You cross out a botched sketch. Historians still argue whether your famed moth wing gradients were meticulous accuracy or opium-fueled improvisation. The truth licks your neck, sweat, and noctuid scales. Dawn bleeds through the canopy, revealing a tree trunk carpeted in chrysalises. They glisten jade and amethyst like jewels on a dead queen's throat. You slice one open, expecting goo, and flinch. A fully formed butterfly writhes inside, antennae whipping, too soon exposed. Classical entomology claims metamorphosis requires stillness. This fighter dismantles dogma with every twitch. Your watercolors warp in the dew. Helena suggests piss as fixative. You're desperate enough to try. The driver gags. City women are witches. You smirk, dip your brush, paint the butterfly's death throes in urine yellow streaks. Later scholars will x-ray this page, debate if the stain's symbolic or uroboric. You just needed it to stick. Ants swarm a fallen papaya, a black tide dismantling fruit flesh. You sketch their mandibles, precision scalpels, as the driver describes warriors who wielded ant jaws as stitches. Hurt worse than Dutch medicine, he shrugs. You hide a grin. The Royal Society would combust hearing folk surgery outperforms their leeches. Rain interrupts, hot needles stinging your scalp. You shelter under a bromeliad, its stench of stagnant water. Dorothea yelps a frog the size of a kitten, hops onto her skirt. Poison. The driver warns, hand on his machete. You grab it barehanded, skin tingling, recording the modeled pattern before release. Your fingers go numb for hours. The guild would call this recklessness. You call Tuesday. Sunset. The jungle exhales steam. Helena massages your cramped hand, knuckles swollen from note-taking. Worth it, she asks, nodding at the specimen crate. A moth taps its cocoon against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. You think of daughters locked in Amsterdam attics, tapping walls for someone who listens. Ask me when the book's printed. The driver spots a jaguar's footprint, toe pads still denting the mud. You press paper over it, capturing the ridges. Dorothea whispers legends of jungle cats guiding lost souls. You whisper equations, calculating paw size versus potential prey. Both are prayers, one dressed in feathers, the other in arithmetic. Moonrise brings a termite swarm their wings, catching silver light like falling daggers. You catch one, compare it to your Weimar specimens, and freeze. Mandible variations, distinct. Some modern entomologists insist this moment sparked your theory of environmental adaptation. Others blame bad rum. You spit out a wing, resume sketching. Fatigue blurs the page. Helena shakes you awake, your forehead imprinted with sketch lines. Sleep, she orders. You obey, dream of moths chewing your hair into nest fluff. Their larvae spell vanity in silk threads. Dawn finds you grinning, fever bright, already reaching for the scalpel. A farmer's boy brings a jar of preserved spiders, amber liquid sloshing. For the witch lady, his price, a lock of Dorothea's graying hair. He claims it wards off jaguars. You trade 2 buttons instead, swipe the specimen. The spiders float, legs folded forgotten saints in formaldehyde. Your journal swells from jungle damp, pages crinkling like old skin. You press a firefly between them. Its corpse stains the paper with faint phosphorescence. Centuries later, restorers will debate if this was intentional. All you know tonight, it glows, and you're out of candles. The jungle breathes its warnings through the driver's cracked lips. Don't touch the blue ones. As you kneel beside the puddle, your fingers hover over croak-mottled skin, a frog the color of new bruises, and feel the humidity cling to hesitation. Mainstream biology won't codify dendrobatid toxins for another 2 centuries, but your hand moves anyway. Its skin pulses cool velvet over miniature earthquakes as you tilt it toward lamplight. Madam Dorothea starts you silence her with a raised palm. The frog's throat sac inflates, a heartbeat made visible. And for 3 illicit seconds, you map chromatophores under its chin. A twig snaps. The driver edges closer, machete dripping sap. They rub darts on its back. You nod absently, already pricking your thumb with the frog's spine. Numbness spreads like spilled ink up your wrist, settling in the elbow crook. Helena groans. At least lick nectar first, like the locals do. You scribble symptoms, shaky capitals, TINGLING, heat, like ROTNBURG fever, PUPILS, unchanged. Fringe anthropologists will later claim this moment birthed the poison taster archetype in pulp novels. Truth is, you forgot the damn canteen. Rainwater pools in the FROGS Chinese letter, EYES beating like liquid mercury. You sketch the refraction, ignoring Dorothea's muttered psalms. The driver argues with a passing iguana, swears its tail twitches in Morse code. Let him, you think, dipping quill in puddle water ink. Your tongue swells, a cotton-packed martyr, as Latin labels blur into Dutch curses. Hours later, campfire smoke claws at your throat. Helena rubs a paste of crushed ants into your forearm. The burning eases. Fool, she scolds, her thumb circling the swollen lymph node. You grin, teeth gritty with fieldwork, and whisper, their venom's alkaline. Dorothea stirs the boiled yucca, eyeing the specimen jar. Ancient Egyptians used frog spawn in love potions. You snort, spilling rum on your notes, its sweet rot mingling with jungle musk. Historians still argue whether you dismissed local cures as superstition or hoarded them in cipher-locked journals. Tonight, you're too busy charting numbness intervals to care. The frog croaks in its glass prison, a bass note trembling through lamplight. You press the jar to your chest, vibration syncing with your arrhythmia. Danger and data, same root pulse. By moonrise, your fingers regain their spite. The driver tosses a mango peel into darkness. It hits something that hisses. Jungle's watching, he mutters. You hum, half listening, peeling back the frog's mouth to sketch its tongue. Quill scratches sync with howler monkeys, nature's metronome. Dorothea snores, her head pillowed on the rhinoceros beetle folio. Helena sharpens pens with a rusted blade, scritch, scritch, the sound of patience unraveling. You dip into the medicinal rum, paint the poison's path up your veins in fever-red strokes. Morning finds you dissecting the corpse, scalpel parting amphibian skin like parting silk. The liver winks up, a tiny copper coin. You bottle it, label smudged with jam, and toss the rest to the driver's semi-tame parrot. It cackles, drops a glittering beetle into your hair payment for the grisly meal. Your notes coagulate, a mosaic of symptoms and suspect metaphors. One page reads, if Adam named the animals, Eve surely poisoned them first. Helena confiscates the ink. You switch to berry juice, staining the margins arterial crimson. The driver watches, chewing a stick. He swears cures snakebite. Seen Europeans die slower. You lob a papaya seed at him. It sticks to his sweat-greased forehead. Laughter barks through camp, startling a flock of sapphire-winged moths. Their wings fan your face, cool as a Nuremberg winter, before spiraling into the mist. You pocket 3 scales from their bodies, iridescent proof of something. The frogs' toxins linger in your joints, a ghost curriculum teaching resilience through ache. Dorothea mutters about Amsterdam doctors, their leeches, and powdered unicorn horn. Let them lecture, you think, tracing a swollen knuckle. Your body's now a ledger scrawled in venom and victory. Sunlight filters through canopy cracks, spotlighting the specimen jar. The frog's preserved grin mocks you, eternal and enigmatic. Helena snaps the satchel shut. Next time, gloves. You don't answer, already squinting at a vine where something yellow clings, waiting to be touched. Fire ants march up the hammock ropes, their bodies glinting like misplaced armor. You swipe at them, too slow, your joints rusted by fever's glue. That yellow vine from yesterday, its pollen clings to your lungs. Each cough sprays chartreuse, dust across the mosquito net. Helena mutters about plasmodium, Italian for little ball of spite. But your blood's too busy boiling to care. Sweat soaks the journals under your back, ink blooming into Rorschach moths. You count ceiling fronds, 97, before forgetting the number, before the ants return. They hoist your discarded sketches, paper wings crinkling, forming a bridge to the thatched roof. No, you croak reaching, but they've already breached the smoke hole. Starlight filters through their caravan, every moth study ascending to the constellations. Dorothea force feeds you bark tea, bitterness masking cinchonas, life-saving quinine. Mainstream history will laud this moment. Ignore how you vomited onto the dirt floor. A slave woman slips crushed acacia, leaves into your palm, whispers. Ants know medicine better than wigs. You swallow the paste, chalk, and rebellion as fireflies tattoo the air with Morse code. The driver plays a jaw harp, thwick-thwack, mocking your delirium. Fever's just God's way of cooking sinners slow. You rasp laugh, a sound like torn parchment, and imagine his machete melting into candle wax. Helena drapes a poultice over your forehead, moss cool as a Nuremberg tombstone. Your teeth chatter out a rhythm, maybe Mozart, maybe Deathwatch Beatles. Dreams come in stop motion. Ant surgeons stitching your capillaries with silk, a moth-eaten globe, spinning backward to childhood. The Suriname River boiled down to ink you wake mid-scream, something scuttling under your tongue. Dorothea claims it was just sleep. You probe your mouth for legs. Helena finds a crushed spider in your hair, its abdomen smeared across plate XXII. Army ant symbiosis, proof you wheeze pointing at the blurry thorax. She chucks the page into the fire, your protest drowned by howler monkeys. Moonlight turns the camp into a daguerreotype, all silver and ache. You attempt to sketch the ant constellation, fingers trembling through 7 failed lines. Historians still argue whether your wobbly circles depicted malaria's parasites or abstract surrender. Truth is, you just wanted to draw their tiny helmets. The slave woman returns with a hand drum, sings until your pulse sinks to its hide. Her melody lifts the fever briefly. You glimpse beetles dancing in her braids. They carry ancestors, she says, placing a weaver ant on your earlobe. Its mandibles pinch, a pain cleaner than any lancet. Morning brings false strength. You stagger to the specimen table. A vial of morpho scales shatters, cobalt shards slicing your palm. Blood beads join the mess, a field guide in celluloid and crimson. Helena bandages it with spiderweb silk, sticky and devout. While you slur, Linnaeus will steal this watch. By sundown, the hallucinations return. Poison dart frogs line your hammock, croaking in iambic pentameter. You dictate notes to Dorothea. Fever as prism refracts the spectrum of sanity. She writes it down, adds 3 silent Hail Marys. The slave woman's drumming resurfaces at midnight, its rhythm now in your molars. You picture Leipzig apothecaries, their powdered newt eyes and dried wasp tongues. Useless. Here medicine crawls, bites, sings. You suck on a soldier ant's severed head, its formic acid sharp as epiphany. When the fever breaks, it leaves your bones hollow as reed flutes. The ant bridge hangs empty, your sketches dissolved into stardust. Helena finds you grubbing through ashes, rescuing half-charred observations. They're gone, you say, holding up a fragment, showing one antenna's curve. She doesn't laugh, just sharpens your last quill, its nib gleaming like a surgeon's blade. Rain comes washing the camp into watercolor. You lean against a rotten log, watch termites rebuild your spine. Their jaws click. Alive, alive, alive. The driver lobs a cashew at your head. It misses, plunks into a spider's web. You smile for the first time in days. The silk trembles, a map of veins still left to trace. Rainwater beads on the sugar cane, each stalk bowed under emerald armies. You crouch, knees popping, as aphids cluster like courtiers around their queen. Her abdomen pulsates. Live birth, after live, birth, tiny replicas suckling sap before their legs harden. Despots, you mutter, dipping quill in crushed indigo. The slave woman warned you, disturb their honeydew harvest, incite ant mercenaries. Your magnifying lens catches movement, a winged shadow darting between leaves. Parasitic wasps descend, iridescent torpedoes strafe the aphid mass. One implants eggs into a plump nymph's side, surgical as a Dutch surgeon. You sketch the injection, antennae-tip precision, captioning it divine retribution in miniature. Mainstream texts won't admit it, but your notes damn near predict parasitoid life cycles a century early. Ant guards swarm mandibles, snapping air too late. The infected aphid bloats, transforms into a gold-flecked mummy. You nick it with a needle. 76 wasp larvae spill out, each no larger than a grain of grit. Historians still argue whether you exaggerated their numbers for dramatic flair, but your journal's coffee stains suggest a shaky hand, not deceit. The slave woman kneels beside you, plucks a cane stalk. Watch, she crushes aphids between thumb and finger, smears honeydew across your ledger. Ants surge up her arm, a living gauntlet, until she flicks them into a bottle. Trade this to the fort. She grins. White men pay dearly for sweetened rum thieves. You label the vile formic tax collectors. Note their sweet tooth. The joke evaporates when wasps return, this time targeting caterpillars. A hornworm thrashes, its body studded with ivory cocoons like morbid pearls. You document each parasite's exit wound, circle the date, May 12th, in vermilion. Later scholars will call this ecological choreography. You just see tiny tyrants toppling tinier tyrants. Sunset stains the fields blood orange. You pocket a desiccated aphid queen, her crown reduced to crumpled chitin. Back at camp, you dissolve her in brandy, toast Helena. To rulers who birth their own rivals, she doesn't laugh, just points at the sky. Bats swoop, snatching wasps, mid-flight, rewriting your food web yet again. Nightfall brings ink made from crushed fireflies, your pages glowing faintly as you annotate. A Dutch planter's wife visits tomorrow, demands pretty butterfly sketches, ignores your aphid studies. You prep a gift basket, dried monarchs, vanilla pods, and one parasitic wasp cocoon nestled in cotton. Let her court think it's decor. The slave woman hums as she braids your hair, tucks a soldier ant into the weave. Its antennae tap your temple, a metronome for the chaos outside. Some claim Merian invented field ecology in Suriname. Others say she just had good pest control. You drift off to the lullaby of ant jaws, their ceaseless chewing inking itself into your spine. Dawn leaks through the plantation's slave huts. Smoke curls from medicinal herbs you'd mistake for weeds. Helena beckons you inside, earth floor cool under your ink-stained palms. An elder grinds bullet ants into paste, their venomous jaws still twitching. For fever, she says, dabbing your wrist with a pinch. Later chronicles will note your coded journal entry. Learned febrifuge preparation from African-born women, superior to European leeches. The elder's fingers dance over spider silk spun across bamboo frames. Stronger than linen, hold your dead butterflies. You test a strand, it slices into your thumb. Blood dots the silk. She laughs, weaves it into a bandage. Centuries later, restorers will debate whether that crimson thread in your specimen box was accident or art. Helena hands you a palm leaf bundle, roots smelling of turned soil and iron. Boil this, smoke chases malaria spirits. You hesitate, remember the planter's wife, dismissing such heathen cures yesterday, but your shaking hands obey, steeping the brew over coals. Historians still argue whether genuine empathy drove your plant studies, or just desperation to survive the fevers killing Dutch colonists. A girl no older than 10 offers you a calabash, black liquid shimmering inside. For seeing truth, you sip, bitterness floods your tongue, visions pulse, beetles with human eyes, vines strangling slave chains. Helena smashes the gourd, not for your kind. The rebuke stings worse than wasp larva pricks. You sketch by moonlight, spider silk binding your journal. Arachnes loom in miniature, each page crackles with tension. Notes bloom, adding symbols copied from a boy's scarification. A doe insists they ward off evil. Modern anthropologists will later trace those very patterns to Ghana's Ashanti. Proof you documented more than bugs. Screams rupture the night, a runaway dragged through cassava fields. Your quill snaps mid-sentence. Ink trickles like a vein. Helena blocks the doorway, don't look. But you peer through gaps in the thatch. The flogger's whip gleams with spider silk. Your stomach heaves, recognizing the elder's weaving technique. Survival's arithmetic. Same threads that preserved your specimens now flay human flesh. Morning finds you etching for those unheard beneath a caterpillar plate, letters cramped but legible. Guilt tastes familiar, like sipping stolen knowledge from a cracked cup. You gift the elder your last parchment. She draws a Vive symbol unseen in Europe. For safe crossing, she murmurs, pressing jasmine into your palm. Planters mock your dirt-stained skirts. Naturalist spat like a curse. Let them. You've mastered the real language of this place, whispered through roots and weaver ants. A monarch lands on your notes. Its wings eclipse the for those unheard dedication. You let it stay, a living fig leaf over your complicity. Helena braids your hair again. Skullcap blossoms this time. Pretty, the soldiers jeer, until a swarm of venomous ants descends from the flowers. Your cough hides a smile. She winks, drops a spider egg sac into their rum barrel. You fall asleep, decoding a doe's symbols, each curve a rebellion. Outside, the lash still cracks. Inside, your guilt ferments into something sharper. By sunrise, 3 new plates bear dedications in Akan dialect. Let future scholars dissect your conscience. You've already buried the evidence under 39 species of Surinamese beetles. The guava's rot sweetens the air, a curdled perfume luring criminals. You find them clustered like nobles at a banquet, swallowtail wings trembling as they pierce fruit flesh. Their proboscises stab, sugary loot stolen to ferment in tropical bellies. Helena calls them flying drunkards, but your watercolors immortalize their thefts in carmine and gold. Ado gifts you a split papaya, its orange guts crawling with caterpillars. Watch. Days pass, jade bodies swell, split, revealing crumpled wings the hue of drowned sunlight. You sketch each stage, eggs like minuscule pearls, chrysalises mimicking dead leaves. Modern entomologists will use these pages for ID charts, never guessing the papaya tree still grows behind a Surinamese gas station. They come at dusk, morpho blues brighter than Amsterdam's stained glass. You dip your brush, mix lapis lazuli with a hint of gunpowder. The plantation owner's wife demanded a portrait last week. You give her this instead. Butterflies guzzling mango pulp, while European bees starve politely nearby. Let the burgomaster's wives clutch their pearls. Your treacherous pigments whisper nature favors the bold. Helena finds you chuckling at dawn, fingers stained with stolen juice. They're just bugs, but you've seen the truth, how their wings eclipse chapel frescoes, how they gorge while colonials cough from malaria. A glasswing lands on your cheek, its transparent membrane mocking the concept of modesty. Historians still argue whether those fruit banquet paintings slyly mocked Dutch greed or simply documented breakfast. Ado teaches you the trick: mash banana with cashew wine. The butterfly swarm that follows could eclipse the sun. You paint them descending, a jeweled militia. One perches on your quill, abdomen pulsing. It vomits fermented mush onto the watermark. Even sober, you'd swear it's laughing. The plantation's chaplain spies your work, gasps at the crimson-spotted cattle hearts. Decadence. His wig quivers, matching the butterfly's fake eye spots. You almost pity him. Europe's textbooks preach metamorphosis as divine miracle, but your sketches show the messy truth. Survival's a series of thefts. Rot stolen for fuel. Wings torn, then reglued. Rain lashes your canvases. Watercolors bleed into confession. Azure wings melt into sugarcane blood. Helioconia. Reds mirror slave traders' scarves. You chase pigments with palm wine. The butterflies huddle under your easel. By midnight, 23 species float preserved in rum. Their labels lie, collected post-mortem. Helena brings a new delicacy: pineapple cores black with butterfly eggs. You fry them in lard. The crunch echoes Amsterdam's specula's cookies. Tastes like wealth, she smirks. You sketch the meal, knowing future scholars will sanitize it as local culinary exchange. The missing footnote: those eggs hatched 3 days later in your chamber pot. A planter's son demands lessons, fingers clumsy on the brush. He paints gardenias. You sneak cochineal into his palate, watch his petals ooze blood sap. His scream summons hornets. The boy flees, your butterflies inherit his abandoned easel. They're framing you for sabotage now. The overseer points to your hummingbird hawk moth study, proof she's drawn Satan's spawn. You almost correct him. It's a mere pollinator. But let them burn the evidence. Your memory outlives papyrus. 200 years later, a biochemist pauses mid-lecture. That slide of your plate, XVII crimson swallowtails draining a fig. Zoom in, barely visible beneath wing scales. Ado's Akan symbols. The professor mumbles about decorative motifs. Students don't notice her trembling, or how she assigns an essay on artistic encryption. Your final strokes layer gold over rot. The morpho's wings now shine with stolen sunlight. Each scales a vaulted cathedral window. Europe will hang this heresy in gilded frames. Let them. You've pressed the real treason between pages, the stench of overripe justice. You kneel by the creek, fingers rinsing vermilion-stained rags. The water stills, twin amber discs ignite in the blackness. You freeze. The jungle holds its breath. Historians will later cite your meticulous jaguar sketches as groundbreaking, never guessing you sketched from memory while sprinting uphill. Ado's warning hums in your skull. Don't blink. Your mother's thimble digs into your palm, a pathetic weapon against 200 pounds of muscle. The beast yawns, revealing teeth evolved to puncture armored caimans. You silently curse the cassava beer that lured you beyond camp. It leaps not at you, but a screaming capybara. The kill's wet crunch syncs with your pulse. You count 37 spots on its flank while it eats, a forced calm. Later naturalists will call this predator documentation. Tonight, you call it survival. Rain starts washing blood into your leather-bound journal. Pages stick together, crimson Rorschachs mocking your neat labels. Modern archivists will x-ray these stains, hoping for lost sketches. They'll find only iron residue, and your shaky scrawled sideways. Dawn reveals tracks asymmetrical. The left paw lacks a toe. Villagers later whisper of Ghost Claw, a spirit cat who steals Dutch soldiers. You chronicle the deformity and omit how its urine smelled like burnt caramel. A doe finds you grinding indigo berries. Nerves demand busy hands. She tosses a spiked fruit. Rub the juice on your boots. Jaguars hate stubborn women. Historians still argue whether your journal's citrus deterrent note refers to big cats or Dutch husbands. 3 nights sleepless. Every rustle becomes velvet paws. You sketch by firefly light, the beast's pupils contracting into blade-thin lines. A drop of sweat blurs the iris. You turn it into a fire moth. Future scientists will debate this new species for decades. The plantation's mastiff vanishes. A single claw mark ribbons the mud. The overseer accuses your heathen trinkets of summoning demons. You pocket a tuft of tawny fur from the fence. Later, weave it into your brush's handle. Let him blame your art. Moonlight fractures through clouds. Your mapping orchid roots when the growl resurfaces. It's closer now, and a rhythmic purr vibrating your ribcage. You drop the magnifying glass. Its brass edge glints like a challenge. The jaguar sniffs your abandoned inkpot and sneezes. A doe's laughter echoes from the trees. She likes you. The beast rubs its muzzle against a log, leaving golden hairs. You'll secretly blend into watercolors. Critics will praise your unusually textured yellows. Clueless, they're scanning big cat DNA. The encounter ends as it began, a flick of a banded tail dissolving into ferns. Your heartbeat slows, jungle sounds rush back, howler monkeys debate your idiocy. Fireflies resurrect their semaphore. You swig palm wine straight from the jug. Legend claims Ghost Claw stalked Suriname until 1942. A USDA scientist shot what he called a problem animal near Paramaribo and found your thimble lodged in its stomach. They'll display it as a curiosity, never noticing the tiny moth etched inside. The ship groans like a stepped-on iguana, timber ribs flexing against Atlantic fists. You crouch in the hold, elbow deep in crates, as salt spray rains through the ceiling. 3 sailors shout conflicting orders above. Your left boot squelches, brine already seeping into specimen boxes. Prioritize the live ones. The captain bellows through a hatch. You ignore him, your fingers darting between jars. That cerulean morphos, wings disintegrate at your touch paper ash, swirling in pickle brine. Historians will later discover your cargo manifest lists 39 Lepidoptera, all lost to this hourglass squeeze of panic. A wave slams the hull, you bite your tongue. Copper floods your mouth. The mast's shadow fractures across splintering floorboards. A zebra LONGWING Chinese letter floats past. You grab it by instinct. Legs snap off in your palm. Years later, a microbiologist will swab those fractures and identify 17th century Caribbean plankton. Lungs burning, you surface on deck, clutching 2 wax-sealed tins. Fool woman, the first mate snarls, yanking you from the rail. Behind him, a crate of preserved tarantulas slides into the maw of a wave. You note their taxonomic order before they vanish. Arany, not insecta. Priorities. The storm dies at dawn, its tantrum spent. You inventory survivors under a torn sail. 17 waterlogged sketches, 5 intact chrysalises, and the captain's parrot, now vomiting seawater onto your last clean petticoat. It croaks specimens first, a phrase it'll repeat at dinner parties until 1712. Salt crystallizes in your hair as you spread papers to dry. Watercolors bloom like phantom bruises, a crimson-spotted moth becoming Rorschach soup. You press a thumb to the stain, half wishing to leave it. Future art restorers will call this accidental cubism and charge admission. Ado's parting gift survives, a bark pouch of waxy leaves. You chew one now, bitter sap, cutting through salt. Your pencil flies across salvaged parchment, 27 moths resurrected from synaptic dust. Their antennae tremble in margins, a millimeter too long or short. Does it matter? The carpenter finds you muttering wingspan ratios, still counting bugs while we sink. He offers a flask. You decline. Alcohol erases details. He shrugs. Suit yourself, mad scribbler. His hammer tap-taps the hull, Morse code for a eulogy. Moonrise exposes the damage, your inkwell shattered against the compass. Obsidian puddles glitter on the floor. You dip a quill in the mess. The first reconstructed moth unfurls midnight blue veins. By dawn, 26, others crowd the margins. Critics will call your memory specimens unnervingly lifelike and entirely unverifiable. Sunlight reveals your error. The 27th moth has 6 legs instead of 4. You debate correction, then add a spider nearby claiming symbiosis. 3 centuries hence, an entomology blog will cite this as history's most elegant cover-up. The parrot perches on your shoulder, its soggy feathers stinking of kelp. Specimens first, it rasps. You sketch its iridescent tongue, recording the exact pantone of decomposition. Later ornithologists will dispute your description, until DNA analysis proves seagrass altered its pigmentation. Land shimmers on day 9, trees blurring into hope. The captain orders remaining crates jettisoned. You block the crew with your body silent. They hesitate. Your reputation precedes you. So does that rumor about the jaguar in ink. 37 hours later, Paramaribo's docks reek of fish and pity. You haggle for fresh paper. Merchants eye your brine-stiffened dress. A lepidopterist will buy these memory moths for 6 guilders, never guessing their origin. You take the coins and his finest quill as tribute. That night, you burn the salt-rotted originals. Flames twist like mating swallowtails. Ash moths settle in your hair. The parrot watches and learns a new word. Historians still argue whether your sketches were genius or guesswork, while their own footnotes drown in typos. Amsterdam's canals shimmer like beetle shells as your ship limps into port. Dockworkers gawk at the parrot on your shoulder, still croaking specimens first. Through molted feathers, you count crates, 2 of moths, 1 of ants, 5 of sketches reeking of brine and defiance. Your left boot sloshes, Surinamese mud still clinging to the heel. A customs officer pokes your cocoon box. Dead things, he mutters, signing papers with a flourish. You don't correct him. Let Amsterdam think these pupae are souvenirs until they hatch next Tuesday in his attic. The auctioneer's gavel freezes when you enter, his peruke powder dusting the ledger. Scholars whisper behind lace cuffs. You unroll a butterfly scroll on his desk, iridescent wings smothering his protest. His 20 guilders max becomes 300 after noticing the tarantula watermark. Supper at the Guildhall tastes of ashes. Men debate Aristotle's insect classifications, their wigs bobbing like dandelion heads. You place a Surinamese wasp nest beside the salt cellar. Conversation stutters, then dies as larvae crawl from the papery folds. Rain soaks your market stalls, awning water-distorting pinned cicadas into grotesques. A theology student buys 3 demon flies for his dissertation. You pocket his coins and slip a Chinese letter note into his satchel. Historians still argue whether your taxonomy corrections were kindness or sabotage. The parrot learns peer review. From heckling students, it screeches the phrase during lectures, flapping at Linnaeus fans. You reward it with guava slices, though part of you roots for the bird. Nights blur in oil lamp haze. Your quill scratches across vellum, each beetle leg measured 12 times. Critics will mock your Antwar diagrams until a Harvard lab replicates them with robots in 2014. Spring sun warms your inkstone. You sketch a monarch's wing, halting when the quill snaps. The parrot drops a replacement from its perch, a stolen cinnamon stick from the mayor's own desk. Later biographers will omit this petty theft. It complicates their saintly narratives. Your exhibition opens with a sulfur stench, hatching beetles chewing through display cases. Ladies faint, gentlemen scrawl furious letters. You sell 7 more volumes as medics revive the crowd. One buyer murmurs Delft blue palette, missing the Amazonian poison dart, frog blue in your borders. A messenger brings a silver medal Swedish Academy stamped on the ribbon. You use it to weight a moth sketch. The parrot eyes the ribbon, but you've trained it to steal better trophies. Harvest moon stains your workshop amber. A student begs for apprenticeship, eyes widening at your jarred caterpillars. You assign him 20 aphid dissections and hide the good magnifying glass. 3 centuries later, his whining diary entries will surface on eBay. First frost silences the ants in their vial. You bury them in garden soil, marking the spot with a painted rock. Archaeologists will debate this ritual for decades, unaware you just needed the jar for fireflies. The print shop owner winces at your cash payment. No letters of credit. His press creaks, spreading your galoche-patterned wings across 50 copies. He misses the subversive bit, where you term nobles parasitic wasps. Christmas bells toll as you gift a janitor your last Suriname journal. His daughter traces the butterfly margins, finger smudging your caption. Flight beats gold. She'll found a natural history museum and ban wigs in the reading room. Midnight finds you grinding indigo with a mortar. The parrot snores in its cage, still muttering methodology. From today's heckling, your new sketch glows with bioluminescent fungi. A discovery colleagues will attribute to male explorers for 230 years. Dawn cracks the horizon, your breath fogging the windowpane. Across the canal, a warehouse guard examines strange wing beats in crate 6. You smile, sipping bitter cocoa, as the first morpho escapes into Amsterdam's gray. The ink-stained pages breathe. You swear they flutter when no one's looking. Your Metamorphosis tome lies cracked open at a bookseller's stall. Peasant girls ogling peacock feather beetles while their mothers cross themselves. You adjust the display. A tawny owl moth spreads its wing maps toward a lingering sunbeam. Madam, your arsenic paint's flaking. A guild botanist sneers, pointing at a death's head hawk moth. His wig tilts dangerously left. You peel back the illustration, revealing the same moth pollinating night-blooming Sirius. Life requires context. You murmur, watching his nostrils flare. Printers cursed your cross-hatched vines, 8 blocks smashed trying to capture heliconia leaves. The solution: boiled crocodile bile as a binder. Now the tropics shimmer under Dutch varnish, each dewdrop holding a distorted reflection of Amsterdam's gabled roofs. A countess buys 6 copies her footman, staggering under gilded edges. She coos over metallic morpho blues, misses the aphids you tucked into margin corners. They'll hatch in her Venice-bound trunk, tiny stowaways chewing through Habsburg lace. Coffeehouse debates turn feverish. Students cite your WASP studies to refute clergymen, while ignoring your stolen cinnamon quill anecdote. You sip mint tea in the corner, letting their fervor sell the remaining stock. The frontispiece engraving draws blood, literally. Apprentices nick fingers, tracing the Suriname cecropia's serrated leaves. You distribute linen bandages preemptively, their rusty smears mirroring the book's cochineal red chapter headers. Critics fixate on one error: a butterfly sipping jaguar tears. Fanciful rot. They publish. You don't mention the Amerindian guide who showed you, or how his laugh rattled with pebbles from that same creek. Night deliveries arrive via fish carts, your publisher's innovation to docket snobs. Cod scales stick to dedication pages. Future restorers will diagnose atypical crustacean infestations in conservation reports. A street urchin swaps stolen pears for your ink recipe. You trade it for 3 foxed volumes and the location of a secret print shop. Its proprietor winks when you request scarlet gall wasp paper, humming a Surinamese harvesting song. Royal Society letters arrive sealed with grub fat wax. You melt 3 for emergency lamp oil. The 4th reveals a membership offer. Its parchment makes excellent kindling for drying snakebite antidote drafts. Your alleyway murals spark chaos. Luna moths painted on bakeries. Stag beetles scaling church spires. Magistrates scrub them, only for rain to reveal hidden firefly constellations glowing through the limewash. A rival naturalist's desk combusts. Spontaneous ignition, they claim. You recognize your own antacid annotations glowing in the ash. That accident makes Utrecht's lecture circuit abruptly polite. Housemaids line your stoop at dawn begging caterpillar cures for bald patrons. You prescribe rosemary oil spiked with sap. The real remedy, watching their faces when beetles emerge from adjacent terrariums. Someone steals your quill mid-sketch. You retaliate by gifting their mistress a decoration, framed kissing bugs with a plaque. Loyalty's true form. The quill reappears snapped, but dipped in genuine Tyrian purple. Historians still argue whether your jaguar tear sketch was observation or allegory. Let them. You're too busy laughing into your ale, the teepster's fee from London, already buying better pigments. The ice seller finds you at twilight, your breath fogging as he unloads. Saw your book in Batavia. He grins, dropping off Surinamese cacao beans with his chisel. Their fermented scent mingles with canal mist, mimicking jungle humidity in your nostrils. You press a silver guilder into his palm, 2 monarchs engraved on both sides. He pockets it absently, missing your footnote about currency metamorphosis in the next edition's errata sheet. Gold foil curls under your blade, each beetle's armor, catching candle flame like stolen sunlight. The Count von Schlesheim's agent leans too close, his breath reeking of pickled sturgeon and envy. Her Highness demands extra aurum on the title page. He sniffs. You nod, add inverse guilt to the dung beetle's underbelly. Nobles never notice the ants marching through your filigree. A duke's wife gasps at the emerald weevil's luster, completely missing the carnivorous vine, devouring its Latin name. You gift wrap her volume in viperskin parchment. Let the scales prickle her sanctimonious fingertips. London's Royal Mint commissions a commemorative coin, your scarab design, flanking Queen Anne's profile. You insist on adding tarnished edges, subtle as a rust mite's kiss. Historians will later call it Britain's first biological currency, without grasping the joke. A Weimar princeling tries to woo you with diamond-dusted orchids. You sketch his offering mid-decomposition, beetle larvae bursting from the stem. He storms off, leaving the gems embedded in your desk like oversized insect eggs. Printers protest the cost of crushed malachite for hornet stripes. You demonstrate an alternative spit polish mercury to mimic iridescence. 3 apprentices quit. The rest gain a permanent greenish pallor and unionization pamphlets. The church orders 50 deluxe editions, your ichneumon wasp plates sandwiched between psalms. Archbishops marvel at the angelic beetles, blind to the parasitic offspring consuming their hosts in footnote diagrams. You stumble upon a black market botanist tattooing your moth illustrations onto sailors. His needle dips in crushed indigo and gunpowder, guaranteed to survive scurvy. Trade secret. Squeeze leech juice into the ink, the resulting infections, well. Art demands sacrifice. A French encyclopediste dedicates 18 pages to your metallic brushwork. He dismisses your revolutionary life cycle charts as feminine embellishment. You mail him a corrected copy, with earwig nymphs nesting in the binding's glue. Gardeners write desperate letters. Your rose chafer prints inspire a tulip bulb smuggling ring. Amsterdam's canals fill with discarded petals like shed exoskeletons. You donate the finds to a silkweaver's guild, their gratitude woven into your next set of brush handles. Young brides beg for guidance on insect-themed trousseaux. You recommend bed curtains embroidered with mating stag beetles and prenuptial contracts specifying separate terrariums. Historians still argue whether your marriage advice catalyzed the city's first female-led apothecary co-op. Mining barons commission geological cross-sections, their ore veins suspiciously resembling ant colonies. You layer fossilized fern patterns over copper deposits. Let future generations puzzle over the coincidence. A Salzburg alchemist will later claim your diagrams predicted underwater oil reserves. The Prince of Orange's chef mimics your chrysalis pastries with almond-stuffed marzipan. You attend the banquet, pocketing silver cutlery shaped like weevil mandibles. Later, you trade them for a Bolivian silkworm smuggled inside a communion wafer tin. A drunk chronometer maker insists your beetle wing iridescence proves Newton wrong about light. You humor his theory, then sketch him a prismatic cockroach for further study. He names his next ship the Refracted Roach, sinks off Martinique with a hold full of illegal cochineal beetles. Winter brings an odd phenomenon. Your studio's frost patterns mirror Surinamese moth antennae. Servants whisper of witchcraft until you demonstrate how breath on frozen windows replicates the effect. The resulting craze for entomological ice harvesting collapses after a Duke's skating pond becomes beetle-riddled slush. Someone floats a counterfeit edition with inverted metamorphosis sequences, caterpillars emerging from butterflies. You retaliate by flooding the market with free pamphlets, their margins containing legitimate silkworm incubation schedules. The inflation bankrupts 3 pirate printers and sparks Gouda's brief but passionate sericulture rebellion. A grieving widow sends you her dead husband's beetle collection, preserved in cognac since the siege of Namur. You rehydrate a rose chafer in mint tea. Watch it stagger across your desk. Tipsy on centuries-old battle spirits, the final joke stays between you and the gutter's edge. Your newest mural depicts ermine-clad nobles as larvae clinging to a rotting fruit. Guards whitewash it by noon. Missing the firefly larvae you mixed into the paste, their faint glow haunts the alley every summer solstice, a subversive constellation guiding street artists for generations. Your last task: redesign the tax stamp, a stag beetle crushing Habsburg crowns in its mandibles. The commissioner coughs, approves it as abstract floral motifs. You pocket the fee and order another barrel of corrosive green vitriol for tomorrow's engraving plates. The quiver starts in your pinky, a tiny tremor migrating up your wrist like a traitorous caterpillar. You grip the maul stick tighter, knuckles whitening against cherrywood grain. The brush strapped to your palsy-twisted hand dabs cochineal red, a perfect teardrop on the orchid mantis thorax. A pupil gasps, her lace cuff catching the inkpot mid-fall. 14-year-old Johanna von Eichtel faints spectacularly. Powdered wig cascading into the sauerkraut pigment vat. Fetch the smelling salts. You rasp, secretly grateful for the distraction. Your left hand sketches one-handed blind contour exercises on her petticoat hem, just to prove it still can. They say the stroke came from Surinamese swamp fevers, revenge of those dissected tree frogs. Doctors prescribed pigeon blood poultices and 4 hours of lute music daily. You opted for spider silk brushes, their lighter drag easing the tremors. Historians will later find your private notation. Honey mixed with crushed lappies makes better glue than piety. The Dutch Guild inspects your workshop, clucking over your apprenticeship irregularities. A baron's daughter grinds pigments next to a freedman's son, their chatter dissolving class lines with turpentine efficiency. You assign them collaborative studies, reconstructing Brazilian butterfly wings from memory with sugar syrup as binder. 3 students defect to the Jesuits. The rest learn ratio by licking failed attempts. Prussian envoys request a commemorative moth for their new observatory. You outline wings in diluted mercury, quicksilver trails mimicking celestial paths. Your shaking hand smears Andromeda into a Rorschach blot, which their astrologer declares the most accurate star map to date. Payment arrives in tulip bulbs, and smuggled Prussian blew your smirk, hidden behind a vinegar-soaked handkerchief. Spring brings rumors. An anonymous pamphlet claims you've gone senile. That night, you gift all 14 pupils copperplate needles. Engrave this, you growl, thumping a diagram of aphid parasitoids onto the workbench. The resulting broadsheets flood Leiden's coffee houses. By dawn, your wobbly signature daring critics to dissect their life's work post-paralysis. Rich matrons still flinch when you enter their salons, your canes tap-tap mistaken for a death watch Beatles countdown. You accept their commissions anyway, hiding progressive tremors in ornamental scrollwork. A particularly grotesque duke's wife becomes immortalized as a rhinoceros beetle, her wrinkles reimagined as elytral grooves. She frames it in her boudoir. Unaware entomologists will reference her portrait for taxonomy debates. Your bedchamber becomes a laboratory, herbal tinctures steeping beside beetle jellies. The maid finds you midnight scribing with a foxglove poultice strapped to your wrist. The poison numbs the shake. You explain, watching her recoil from the belladonna tonic. 3 days later, she's blending ergot-infused ink for your night sketches. Never underestimate a servant's hunger for quiet rebellion. The final test comes unannounced. A Swedish envoy demanding proof of your continued competence. You paint a predatory wasp onto parchment, its antennae vibrating with minuscule text. Under magnification, the Latin reads, "Observe long enough, and parasites become rulers." He purchases it for triple the price, too vain to borrow the spectacles off your desk. At lessons, end pupils linger near your slashed silk canvases. They think you don't notice their trembling fingers mimicking yours, mocking, emulating. You leave a single springtail sketched on the chalkboard, its furcula drawn to resemble beckoning fingers. Come morning, 6 students request extended study hours. The other 8 will found Europe's first invertebrate zoology department. Grief arrives as a thief stealing dexterity, but gifting focus. Your left hand learns what the right forgot, mixing memory and vermilion into sharper truths. When the quill finally slips, disfiguring a Luna moth's hindwing, you smirk. Call it Phallina imperfectionis, you tell the horrified classroom. Later, a pupil will use the error to identify a new subspecies. The burgomaster's wife commissions a vanity portrait, her face encircled by artistic moths. You transpose her features onto a clothes moth larva, rendered in edible gold leaf. She hosts a gala unveiling only for your subtle sabotage. By dessert, termite pheromones in the varnish have drawn actual moths to devour her likeness. One mainstream fact anchors the farce. Medical ledgers confirm your 1715 stroke from a charlatan's mercury cure, yet guild records show increased productivity post-illness, 18 illustrated volumes in 3 years. Scholars still bicker. Did secret assistants ghost your late work? Let them. The pupae don't credit the chrysalis. Your last journal entry drips defiance. A water stain blurs the words unsteady and undaunted. The final sketch shows a mayfly's veined wings, each cell containing a smaller, clearer self-portrait. Pupils will weep at your funeral. Housemaids will pocket your moth-shaped erasers. And deep in Suriname, a previously undocumented beetle hatches with iridescent patterns matching your signature. Morning light bleeds through the studio's hornplate windows. You lift your wrist the brush trembling like a mayfly's last flight. Acid green pigment arcs through the air, a single perfect larva curling on the virgin parchment. The pupils hold their breath. So do you. The candlewick drowns in its own wax, your breath rattling the flame's last stand. Pupils crowd the bedchamber, their ink-stained hands clutching rosaries, your rosaries. Burn them, you whisper, papery throat tearing on each syllable. They pretend not to understand those letters to estranged daughters, those sketches of Luna moths rutting on silk plantations. A maid shoves kindling into the stove, its iron mouth glowing. You spot her tucking a folded page into her stomacher. Let her. Some truths refuse ash. The quack doctor hovers with leeches, still pushing his mercury tonic. You fling a bedpan at his wig, satisfied when pomade sizzles. Pupils later swear your paralysis vanished for that throw. Historians will note your 1717 death coincided with Halley's comet, though which terrified whom remains unrecorded. They bring the first stack, 62 letters from Surinamese slavers, requesting more flattering insect portraits. Flames curl the colonial seal smoke, stinging like forgotten pepper spray. Your youngest pupil weavers breathe through your sleeves, you croak. Tear gas, Aventla letter. 3 hours in, the stove chokes on apologies to dead husbands. Guild minutes too, you bark watching apprentice Jorg pale. He feeds his own love letters instead. Smart boy, that Rembrandt descendant, never wrote back anyway. Midnight, the room sweats camphor and betrayal. Someone coughs up a Latin pun, inflammis veritas. You counter with Dutch gutter slang, legacy's last mic drop. The maid smirks into the charcoal bucket. Dawn cracks its yoke over Amsterdam. Your left hand claws the air, drawing phantom antennae on sunbeams. The stroke comes as an old friend, carrying scissors for life's final thread. Pupils swear your last word was metamorphosis, but the maid insists it was Mayor Caffey. Chaos. A vicar drones psalms, while apprentices loot your beetle brooches. The maid quietly rescues your Suriname field notes from the kindling pile. Guild inspectors arrive too late, finding only suspiciously warm floorboards and a half-melted wax seal. They inter you beneath St. Anthony's, next to the man who called your work female frivolity. Irony dies screaming when 2 meeting beetles skeletonize his coffin first. Your cedar casket, untouched. Even in decay, you repel pests. The burned letters surface 2 centuries later, auctioned as erotic fiction. Scholars hyperventilate over your graphic descriptions of tarantula courtship. A wagging finger inked in 1703. Observing is not endorsement. Meanwhile, that smuggled page rots in the maid's descendants' attic. It details edible mosses and a certain Surinamese poison frog's antidote. Historians still argue whether you discovered it or brewed the toxin yourself. Your ashes, not in the canal-blown urn, not in the commemorative medallions. They ride ship rats to London, sneezing powder fine onto a schoolboy's beetle collection. Charles Darwin scratches his nose and pens a theory about survival tactics. In Paramaribo, a cacao farmer splits open a pod. Beetles cascade out, their wing case patterns mirroring your tremor-heavy signature. Local lore claims they chew through false elegies. Scientists blame recessive genes. You wouldn't care. Somewhere, a moth gnaws through a biographer's wool coat. Somewhere, a student copies your mistaken Luna moth into a tattoo. Somewhere, the stove's last ember winks out. Mildew fingers creep across ledger spines. The Staatsbibliothek's basement, exhaling 2 centuries worth of pigeon bones and damp. You're a coffee stain on some underpaid archivist's cuff until a grad student trips over your folio. Chase, she hisses, kneeling to inspect the split binding. Out flutter studies of Surinamese stag beetles, their mandibles meticulously cross-hatched with rage. Her thumb smudges a date, 1679, 3 years before Linnaeus even wets his first diapers. She texts her advisor in all caps, jostling a disgruntled silverfish from the pages. Its antennae twitch Morse code for your late. The academic squabble begins over bad conference croissants. Linnaeus loyalists dismiss your work as decorative. Feminist grad students counter with your hollyhock weevil life cycle charts. Someone cites Darwin's beetle collecting childhood, your supposed influence. A tenured professor scoffs until she finds your moth classifications stuffed in a mislabeled box of 18th century erotica. TikTok loves the drama. A mycologist with nail art lip-syncing your dissection notes. Conspiracy theorists claim you faked your death, citing the 1717 comet as a cover for fleeing creditors. Dutch tabloids Photoshop you into a reality show. Real housewives of the golden age that rescued field journal surfaces in a Rotterdam pawnshop, pages reeking of pickled herring. Marginalia reveals you'd named 7 species after your least favorite Amsterdam matrons. The descriptions skew savage. Madame de Witt's beetle sports a neckruff of lice. Harvard digitizes your work, servers crashing when Reddit notices the hidden sketches. Between wasp diagrams, nude self-portraits, a smirking middle finger in watercolor, art historians hyperventilate, curation interns whisper about Baroque thirst traps. Linnaeus's ghost trends on Twitter. Memes of him side-eyeing your resurrected holotype specimens. A Swedish children's book recasts him as your jealous assistant, complete with Viking-style lamentations. The original Suriname sketches go viral for their dick bug annotations. Entomologists protest. Those phallic protrusions are standard ichneumon wasp ovipositors. You'd scribbled a footnote. One must endure much probing to grasp nature's truths. In Suriname, an eco-resort erects your statue beside a gift shop selling feminist beetle tote bags. Local guides snicker. They know the real story. Your journals praising indigenous remedies, cursing Dutch sugar barons. Your census records resurface exposing 3 aliases and an unpaid linen bill. Genealogists trace your descendants to a Kyoto sushi chef and a Bolivian ant farming nun. The Vatican denies DNA testing. Historians still argue whether Linnaeus stole your notes during that 1737 trip to Holland. Evidence: circumstantial. Your handwriting appeared in his draft margins, next to doodles of a certain poison frog. The maid's ancestor auctions her stolen page. Christie's lists it as 17th century proto-feminist manifesto. It's your grocery list: indigo dye, quills, rat-proof flour barrels, arsenic soap. Instagram wellness gurus spin the arsenic into empowerment quotes. At the Royal Society, a moth chews through your display case. Guards shrug. It's the 3rd time this month. The CCTV footage, corrupted by larvae in the server room. You wouldn't laugh. Probably. Yet somewhere, a PhD candidate trips over Latin declensions, your smudged fingerprint glowing under UV light. Somewhere, a curator finds pressed orchids in your financial ledgers, petals spelling liar in 18th century Dutch. The moths, indifferent as ever, keep chewing. Dutch wax prints swallow the lecture hall bold geometries creeping over PowerPoint slides. A moth gnaws the projection screen's edge, each puncture warping your watercolors into Rorschach blots. Colonial optics, argues the tenure-track professor. Her choker beads clack like beetle carapaces. Merian exoticized indigenous knowledge while benefiting from plantation economies. The screen flickers. Your Surinamese ant study now sports a trigger warning. Across campus, an octogenarian historian mutters into his sherry, revisionist drivel. His tweed jacket still smells of 1970s cigar smoke and your forgotten dissertation. He retypes your beetle descriptions, hunting for commas that prove your feminine sensibility. The moths approve neither thesis. One flutters into the feminist studies department, leaving wing dust on Judith Butler. Another drowns in the old man's Madeira. Your ghost trends again when Amsterdam Art Week projects your sketches onto Unilever's headquarters. Security tackles a performance artist gluing live crickets to the CEO's limo. Her manifesto quotes your journal. Profit poisons observation. Scholars still feud over your motivations. Was the arsenic in your paintbrushes industrial accident or calculated revenge against a patron? The lab reports inconclusive. Your femur samples went missing during a grad student's pub crawl. Indigenous tick-tokers stage the real debate. A Maroon elder films her granddaughter peeling cassava. Why praise Merian's discoveries? Our ancestors taught her. The video cuts to your journal entry. Madame Yawari's poultice cured my fever, though she charges too much. Parisian auction houses aren't listening. They sell your moth studies for 6 million euros. The buyer hungers for ESG credibility. Your actual specimens molder in a Kinshasa museum, eaten by the same termites ravaging their display cases. In Bonn, A punk band names itself Sibyllla's Silverfish. Their debut single samples beetle stridulations and archivists' exasperated sighs. Protesters pelt the stage with paper moths during their Amsterdam gig, not realizing the papier-mâché paste copies your 1712 recipe. The moths themselves hold steady employment. Art restorers hire them to age counterfeit Merians $50K per authentic-looking hole. A Zurich gallerist gets caught releasing larvae at openings, insists it's participatory historiography, your least controversial legacy. The Bolivian nuns' ant farm convent goes viral on Instagram. Novices snack on fried leafcutters, their habits embroidered with your lesser-known aphid diagrams. A papal encyclical condemns the cruelty of insect cuisine, until Vatican chefs unveil communion wafers fortified with cricket flour. Historians still argue whether your focus was feminist defiance or anti-colonial guilt. The answer crawls across their debates, silverfish chewing through dissertation drafts, termites collapsing tenure-track CVs. At the Smithsonian, your restored self-portrait gains a QR code. It links to a think piece called White Women's Insects. The accompanying NFT sells before anyone notices the metadata. Hidden in the pixel grid, a Surinamese stick insect hums God Save the Queen. Rain soaks the gift shop's feminist beetle tote bags. The moths, indifferent as ever, keep chewing. Rainbow loading bars crawl across your doodle, 16 million fingers tapping where moth wings should be. The animation's chiptune harpsichord mutes your actual birth date. Google's algorithm chose International Women's Day for better SEO. Your pixelated caterpillars glitch into supermarket ads. Kellogg's entomology-themed cereal boxes piling up in landfill streams. A third-grade teacher prints your doodle for Famous Ladies Week. Her students dub Bug Lady Kardashian, their crayons adding lipstick to your angular jaw. Somewhere in Mountain View, engineers notice traffic spikes from Suriname. Not the tourism board, just Grandma Nita's tech-savvy book club roasting the doodle's cartoonish ants. Their WhatsApp thread overflows with ancestral snake emojis and a blurry photo of your 1705 field notes stained with banana paste. You trend again when Elon Musk's AI art project reimagines your work. The result: Surinamese beetles gripping Tesla coils their thoraxes, vibrating to dubstep. Purists rage post side-by-side comparisons. Your meticulous cicada, 27, versus the algorithm's cyborg abomination. No one mentions the metadata buried in the doodle's code. Someone sneaked a moth emoji over the L in Google. It triggers annually at 3:42 a.m., the exact hour you first sketched under Surinamese moonlight. Historians still argue whether the doodle honored your legacy or flattened it into corporate feminism. Devin from marketing certainly thinks so. He wears your face on limited edition socks while pitching Monsanto's new pesticide. Your ghost prefers the glitches. A Polish teenager notices the doodle's hidden lair, her touchscreen revealing your lost manuscript beneath the animation. She screen records the discovery. Then TikTok's copyright bots erase it mid-upload. Mozilla tries launching Merian mode, a browser extension replacing ads with your beetle studies. It backfires when Gucci co-ops the code. Their spider silk handbags, now certified by your 1699 supply chain notes. You haunt emoji keyboards hardest. Teen texts bloom with butterflies tagged Merian moment. Each wingbeat monetized by a Stockholm ad firm. The actual Papilio Sibylla remains locked in a private collection, its DNA edited to glow for TikTok unboxings. Just before the doodle expires, a glitch surfaces. Users in Accra and Oaxaca report beetles inchworming off their screens, leaving oily trails on tempered glass. AppleCare dismisses it as liquid contact damage. But Lagos street artists replicate the smears into murals of your fiercest critics, mid-sneeze. The final click count flashes. 16,002,419. Chrome deletes the doodle, unwittingly mirroring your purged letters. Only the moth emoji survives. Its Unicode now lists you as co-creator. Google Trends blames anomalous bot activity, never noticing the Argentinian teen who hacked it using your forgotten wax-resist techniques. Your caterpillars freeze mid-crawl on expired browsers. Fans screenshot the error message, cropping out the Surinamese village name faintly visible in the dead pixels. By dawn, the doodle's just a listicle thumbnail, 17 female scientists who aren't Marie Curie. But in Helsinki, an old Nokia brick phone buzzes. Its monochrome screen flickers. A single pixel larva gnawing the edge. The owner, 18, and nursing a karaoke hangover, squints, swipes left, shrugs. Yet the stubborn dot remains, etching your name into grayscale phosphor. The Nokia's ghostly pixel fades as dawn claws through Rotterdam's student housing, its faint afterimage seared into retinas, still drunk on peach schnapps. You lurch into a world where your pressed specimens disintegrate under museum LEDs, conservators debating whether to seal them in argon or let them crumble with dignity. Suriname's jungles hum differently now, chainsaw gargles slicing through cicada symphonies. Eco-influencers pose where you once sketched, their Merian moment selfies framing bulldozers as industrial chiaroscuro. One vlogger tries reading your epilogue aloud, her manicured nail tracing words about spider silk economies, until a howler monkey pelts her GoPro with half-eaten fruit. Historians still argue whether quoting your 1705 plea, "Let the wings remain unfettered," counts as carbon offset for raising butterfly nurseries. The AI tour guide at your Amsterdam museum doesn't care. Its chipper voice reciting deforestation stats between promotions for diamond-funded eco-resorts. Your dried hibiscus blooms flake onto climate summit brochures. Delegates pocket the crimson crumbs as lucky charms, never noticing the larvae nibbling their parchment-thin pledges. A security guard recognizes the infestation. His grandfather's stories about leafcutter ants marching through Paramaribo, still sharp as dissection pins. Tick-tock witches claim your specimens channel entomological spirits. They brew moth-wing tea for clairvoyance, ignoring the arsenic traces in 17th century preservation methods. One YouTuber ends up vomiting for 6 hours straight. Her live-streamed exorcism, sponsored by Pepto-Bismol. The quirkiest rebellion brews in French Guiana. Farmers resurrect your anti-pesticide techniques, planting border flowers you'd cataloged but never tested. Rogue botanists swear the blooms repel tractors, though UNESCO chalks it up to lucky soil pH levels. Your handwritten labels fade as meme fodder. A Brooklyn tattoo artist inks metamorphosis or death in Baroque script across a venture. Capitalist's shoulder blades. He tips her extra to add a QR code linking to his crypto hedge fund. At Oxford, a biohacker implants your moth illustrations under her skin, living displays flashing. When she lectures, O-N Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. The dean threatens disciplinary action until MIT offers her tenure via hologram. All your flaws get romantic filter layers. That questionable 1712 parrot illustration, streetwear brands slap it on jackets with flawed but feral slogans. The real birds went extinct decades ago. THEIR Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. Squawks echoing in bootleg nature documentaries, narrated by deepfake David Attenborough. Auction houses dribble your fragments across the globe. Page 83 of Metamorphosis, showing tarantula wasps mid-paralysis, sells for €6 million. The buyer stores it in an underground Zurich vault between Picasso's napkins and Elon's first tweeted dick pic. Only the activists resist prettification. They project your moths onto clear-cut forests, animated larvae chewing through still chainsaw logos. Police raid the projectors, but your 300-year-old ink survives spray paint overcoats better than synthetic polymers. Your final joke arrives via malware. A Groningen museum's entire collection gets replaced with deep-faked sketches, every beetle sporting your face. The IT guy hired to fix it quits after finding his toddler daughter drawing six-legged omaninas. As the last pressed flower dissolves, its pollen floats into a Kyoto lab. Researchers splice the degraded DNA into lotus plants, creating blossoms that bloom and die within seconds. Visitors call it a meditation on ephemerality. You'd call it Tuesday. The jungle always wins in the end. A Surinamese teen stumbles upon your forgotten water jar, its clay sweating despite decades of drought. She pours the liquid onto parched soil, and 1,000 wingless beetles claw upward, devouring chainsaw blades like sacramental bread. The jungle's beetle army triumph lasts exactly 47 minutes until dehydration turns their chainsaw feast into a metallic cough. You track grit under museum nails. Curators now face dancing with the ultimate dilemma: preserve her specimens in nitrogen sarcophagi, let decay have its honest way. The Natural History Museum, Rotterdam, makes its choice at 3 a.m. Security cams catch interns swapping stuffed hummingbirds for holograms. A glass case gapes empty except for her handwritten label. Life belongs unframed. The font glitches colonial gilt wrapped in Helvetica. Visitors poke the void, their reflections warping with the ghost of a woman who painted living wings. Docents mutter about dynamic preservation, a fancy term for letting silverfish eat Dutch Golden Age hubris. Over in Leiden, they've gone rogue. An entomology wing dumps Victorian beetles into a sealed terrarium, live tarantulas creeping through cases labeled "Please do not interact." Historians still argue whether Merian would have high-fived the staff or lobbed a jar of leeches. The answer arrives when a hissing cockroach named Karen escapee tweets via RFID chip. Your giggles echo through climate-controlled basements. Archivists find pollen from Surinamese hibiscus blooming inside specimen drawers, roots cracking century-old mahogany. The culprit, a grad student sneezing 1994 chewing gum into a ventilation shaft. His dissertation defense involves PowerPoint slides of mold spores arranged to spell oops. The Louvre tries classing up your revolt. They display Merian's moth studies beside Damien Hirst's diamond-encrusted skull. Security guards rolling eyes at influencers, hashtagging Baroque vs bling. At midnight, janitors swear the moths migrate frames, their paper wings brushing Hirst's $100 million forehead. Berlin's tech bros attempt interactive taxidermy. VR headsets let users experience dissection through her eyes. With 17th century dysentery simulation, reviews tank when players realize Merian's daring expeditions involved more mosquito bites than Lara Croft acrobatics. Meanwhile, Cincinnati's underground art scene nails the vibe. They stage her Suriname sketches in a former slaughterhouse, each painting backlit by bioluminescent fungi. Vegan performance, artists smear themselves in clay, posing as unfinished specimens. Critics call it pretentious. The fungus disagrees, thriving on their sweat. The British Museum's PR nightmare goes full meta. They commission AI to reimagine her lost manuscripts, only for the algorithm to spit out emoji hieroglyphs of ants flipping the bird. Trustees panic buy the source code, which immediately auctions itself as an NFT. Back in Suriname, traditional weavers integrate her moth patterns into funeral shrouds, threads dyed with the same indigo beetles she documented. Climate scientists track a 17% drop in local deforestation rates, coinciding with the first shroud being worn to Parliament. Coincidence? The chainsaw-wielding lobbyist who resigned after bug nightmares says no. Your ultimate troll move unfolds in Kyoto. Roboticists build a moth drone using her diagrams, wings beating with MEMS motors. It malfunctions during a demo, dive bombing a Yakuza boss's toupee. The resulting viral clip gets phonetic subtitles. Lo, thus flies divine retribution. Only the Arctic Circle resists your haunt. A Svalbard seed vault intern sneaks in her pressed savanna flowers. Polar frost preserves them too perfectly. Scientists debate incinerating the blooms until permafrost melts, reveal Viking-era skis stained with identical pollen. At the Smithsonian, X-rays expose cheeky secrets beneath Merian's regal caterpillar portrait. A hidden doodle of her stepfather riding a stag beetle. Conservators Photoshop it out. The JPEG goes rogue, projected onto the Capitol during a filibuster. Your ghost prefers subtler pranks. A Venice Biennale installation of melting wax moths gets critiqued as derivative. Next morning, all nearby gondolas smell suspiciously of honeycomb. The curator develops apophobia, which is one vowel away from accuracy. Rebellion crystallizes in Swiss watch shops. Horologists embed micro-engraved Merian grasshoppers into Rolexes, their legs, ticking in perfect chronometer rhythm. Rich collectors don't realize the second hands actually counting down to rainforest extinction. The final joke's on you. A Bolivian farmer mails back her desiccated leafcutter ant study, pages chewed into perfect lace. Attached, Polaroid of his daughter wearing the paper as a veil, and a post-it that reads, "Now it lives." You try to haunt the postal truck, but get distracted by a really good roadside arepa. Glass eyes watch empires topple. Museum dioramas crack as weevils gnaw the plaster Amazon. Their antennae salute when security's back turns. You whisper through museum gift shops, keychains chiming. The dead don't need frames, just good press agents. A janitor in Buenos Aires pauses her mopping, swearing the Merian exhibit winked. She smirks, then unplugs the alarm system. Dawn finds vitrines open extinct beetles crawling toward the Rio de la Plata. Their wings hum the forgotten fifth verse of Wilhelmus, which Google Translate insists means pay your interns. Historic houses crumble, rebuilt as bespoke coffee shops. Baristas steam milk into butterfly patterns. Customers too busy Instagramming to notice entomology pamphlets tucked under sugar cubes. One slips into a toddler's overalls, emerging 20 years later as a thesis crediting Merian for inventing oat milk latte art. The loop closes when a Parisian taxidermist quits mid-project, stuffing her resignation letter into a hummingbird's hollow chest. It's mailed to Marrakesh by accident, sold at a flea market, dissected by a child who'll grow up banning formaldehyde. Glass eyes cloud over. Museums swap guest books for QR codes. The feedback forms first question. Did this corpse inspire you? You ghost type yes across every screen until the servers crash into a dial-up screech. Someone's Nokia rings. Leafcutter ants haul away the last pixels, their jaws dark with binary confetti. You're curled in a cracked leather armchair, the kind that smells of library finds and unrequited crushes, flipping through a pulpy Merian romance novel. The cover's ridiculous. She's swooning into some shirtless pirate's arms, while a monarch butterfly photobombs their kiss. Historians know she divorced her husband for abandoning her work, not because he forgot their anniversary, but fiction loves a corset-tripping subplot. The latest bestseller claims she had a whirlwind affair with Suriname's Dutch governor, even though the guy was 73 and terrified of caterpillars. Her actual diary pages beg to differ. You've seen the scans, blotched ink, where she scratched out whole paragraphs. One entry survives intact. Herr Greff's sermons on wifely duty grow tiresome. Better to dissect 1,000 aphids than endure his lecture on jam preservation. Auction houses went berserk last year over what they swore was her lost love letter. Turned out to be a grocery list, silk threads, indigo, arsenic soap, purchased by a crypto bro for 90,000 euros. He's now trying to NFT it using blockchain tech she'd probably weaponize against colonizers. Modern biographers aren't much better. That Netflix doc framing her as a manic pixie dream entomologist. Producers added a meet-cute with a fictional farmhand who teaches her to love again. Never mind that Merian once wrote romance is the wasp whose sting numbs the mind. The truth leaks through censorship. In Nuremberg's archives, tucked between moth studies, you find her margin doodles. A caricature of a suitor with beetle antennae, his arms outstretched as larvae devour his powdered wig. Caption: Herr Dandershate's third proposal, 5 p.m. Tuesday. Historians still argue whether she burned personal letters to shield her daughter's reputations, or to deny scholars the satisfaction. The Vatican's secret archives allegedly hold a scorched envelope stamped with her wax seal. But good luck getting a cardinal to admit it. Here's the kicker. Her least famous pupil's memoir describes Merian trouncing a love-struck poet in a beetle racing bet. He'd pinned sonnets to their shells. She fed the insects clover until they ignored finish lines. His final verse, her heart's a chrysalis none shall penetrate. You can't escape the fanfiction. Reddit threads ship her with Carl Linnaeus, even though he was born 27 years after her death. The top-voted post insists time travel's involved, tagged #steampunk smooching. Reality's thornier. A Rotterdam laundry ledger lists regular payments to a widow's companion named Elsch. No surname, no portraits, just linen invoices for 2 linen shifts, 3 woolen caps, and a curious note. Parchment scraped clean. Per MSM modern dramatizations, skip the quiet rebellions. How she traded embroidery samplers for spiderweb sketches under the table, or that time she smuggled silkworm eggs in her bonnet during a suitor's visit. His marriage proposal arrived via courier, alongside a gift of figs. She released the fruit flies into his carriage. Even her travel journals play it coy. Descriptions of Surinamese sunsets fill 18 pages, all while glossing over the enslaved boy who taught her to extract venom without gloves. The kid gets 2 words: useful assistant. 21st century biographers inflate this into a mother-son bond, then pivot to a fundraising page for reparations. The worst offenders a BuzzFeed quiz: which historical babe would be your girl boss muse? Merian's result comes with a stock photo of Scarlett Johansson holding a butterfly net. Never mind that the real woman had a permanently ink-stained thumbnail and opinions on slug mucus. Maybe the biggest romance was with the work itself. You picture her at 56, malaria-weakened fingers steadying a microscope, whispering to a pinned morpho butterfly. You and I will outlive their weddings. The diaries never mention loneliness, only gaps where loneliness might been. Gaps biographers fill with kisses from pirates and farmers. But the specimens don't lie. Inside a locket sold at Sotheby's, folded between portraits of her daughters, rests a desiccated rose chafer beetle, carbon dated to 1703. Engraved on its underside, "This is enough." Your phone's glow bathes the room, moths orbit the screen like pixelated disciples. A TikToker in butterfly wings lip syncs to quill scratching sounds. 2 million views with hashtag Baroque ASMR. Comments erupt. Goals would have slayed the 1600s fashion. This is so underrated. Merian's watercolors now animate as anime. Her Surinamese caterpillars do kawaii dances while Eurobeat blares. One viral filter grafts beetle eyes onto your face. You blink and antennae twitch. A teen in Milwaukee live streams herself embroidering "Eat the Rich" in golden silkworms. Caption: Merian core aesthetic. Archivists cringe. That viral draw like a hash girlboss trend. Most tutorials use clip-art morpho wings, not her precise cross-hatching of Euchromia orifera. The Smithsonian's TikTok tried fact-checking. Their video got 7 likes. Fandom's messy. Fan artists ship her with Rosalind Franklin now. #STEM, Queen's hashtag, mutual microscopes. Conspiracy theorists claim her caterpillar sketches predicted QR codes. Reddit AMAs host Merian Truthers arguing she invented Wi-Fi. But the Dutch burned her notes. Historians quietly upload scans of Metamorphosis's first edition, gold leaf beetles, eclipsed by dancing frog memes. A YouTube reactor gasps at her venomous snake study, then spends 10 minutes ranking her natural lighting technique. The #Merian challenge flopped hard. Followers tried eating edible flowers to attract rare bugs. ER visits spiked. Now, it's all thirst traps posing with antenna headbands, smizing at invisible moths. You swipe to a museum educator's rant. She documented enslaved laborers' botany, not your excuse to sell bug earrings. The reply section's a war zone. Someone's crying. Someone's dropping NFT links. Scholars debate whether her work counts as early sci-fi now, that AI animates her journals. A podcaster argues Merian would have crowdsourced expeditions, ignoring her loathing of collaborators. Reality blurs farther. An anime studio pitches Merian. Mecha Beetle Warrior trailer full of laser pupae. A coffee chain sells Metamorphosis lattes with cocoa chrysalis stencils. Baristas mispronounce her name 90 ways. The oddest homage. A Toronto subway mural where her dragonflies clutch iPhones. Graffiti tag reads, "Are not the main character, the MOTHSR." You linger on a grad student's video quiet voice over flickering manuscript pages. They've circled every time she wrote alone. The likes, 83. But the pinned comment shivers you. She'd hate all this, and maybe love that we keep trying. Closing TikTok, you open her digitized diary. The screen's blue light feels sacrilege compared to candle wax and oak gall ink. A notification pings, a Twitter thread dissecting her sulfur butterfly sketch. Top reply. Bro, this goes hard mind if I screenshot. The notification leads you down a Reddit rabbit hole, headlines screaming, lost, MERI, and manuscript found. Threads dissect blurry attic photos from Antwerp. A user named Mothormyth insists the water stains form a secret map. Their profile picks a moth with UFOs for eyes. You chuckle until spotting a Smithsonian link about 3 rediscovered sketchbooks in 1972, waterlogged but intact in a Nuremberg pickle cellar. That part's true. The Antwerp rumor, archivists whisper about an unpaid storage fee, 1,704, a trunk hauled to some merchant's garret. Belgium's Heritage Commission denies everything, but their press release uses 12 fonts. Conspiracy 432. A YouTube short claims Beethoven's Fifth was inspired by Merian's cicada sketches. Comments erupt, so that's why the second movement's got those crunchy vibes. Bonus evidence. Both preferred working at night. Historians still argue whether they ever crossed paths. The timeline's slippery. But Beethoven edits go viral anyway. Your screen dims, rain taps the window like impatient archivists. Pixelated moths in the corner morph into an ad. Antwerp Airbnb. Sleep where history vanished. Reviews mention bedbugs and a ghostly woman humming German lullabies. 1-star rating, 5,000 saves. A grad student's podcast drones through your earbuds. They're crowdfunding a ground-penetrating radar for attics. Think of the undiscovered beetle species. The stretch goal, X-raying Napoleon's wallpaper. You imagine his tomb, a spiral of invasive moths nibbling gold leaf epaulets. Midnight. Wikipedia tabs multiply. Your thumb hovers over a DM to at Antwerp Attic Hunter, their last post. A shadowy staircase captioned there, WATCHING. You type any updates, then delete it. The cursor blinks, a lone firefly in the digital dark. Real talk, would Merian even want it found? She demanded her letters burned ash as final edit. But the manuscript, maybe it's full of poison frog recipes, or shopping lists, or a how did they misplace an entire trunk. It's not a thumb drive. You zoom the attic photo again. That smudge could be a rat, or the world's first sketch of a nanopanthera beetle. Reddit's overlaid arrows point nowhere. Someone's doodled a dick butt on the JPEG, of course. Rain stops. Your phone dies mid-scroll, the last image seared into your brain. Warped floorboards and a rusted key. Fridge hum fills the silence. Somewhere in Antwerp, if the story's true, a 300-year-old trunk gathers dust between Bruegel reprints and a broken clavichord. Sleep claims you. Dreams splice the attic with Merian's Suriname, vine-covered IBM servers, caterpillars typing corrupted files. You reach for the trunk, but your hands pixels dissolving, low battery flashing in jungle green. Morning light exposes the joke. Your charger's under yesterday's pizza box. You reboot, half expecting a breakthrough. At Antwerp, attic hunters updated false alarm. Just someone's grandma's crochet patterns. But the replies, oh the replies. A poet threads verses about the idea of loss. A teen posts moth memes with WE still believe. An anonymous user, maybe a curator, links to a climate-controlled vault caption. She's safer here. You book a train to Antwerp. Just kidding. Adulting wins, laundry awaits. But for 3 breaths, you stare at the wall, where a moth's silhouette lingers from last summer. Dust or omen? Neither. Both. The green light announcement leaks via deadline. Your Twitter feed becomes a hornet's nest of stinging takes. Actor rumors bloom like invasive fungi. Zendaya's agent seriously considering Timothée Chalamet as a moth. HBO Max drops a teaser where Merian slow-mo dual wields paintbrushes. Historians facepalm. The lone accurate details her straw hat. Film forums dissect the controversy like pinned beetles. One thread's titled, "Why not cast a 52-year-old German woman?" Replies erupt. Because old people don't trend, counterbalanced by gifs of Meryl Streep levitating. The director's logic. We're exploring her essence. This isn't a damn Wikipedia entry. Cue the think pieces. Variety questions feminist revisionism, while Vulture praises the subversive queer coding of Merian's friendship with enslaved herbalists. You snack on popcorn, noticing both articles misidentify Suriname as that place near Jamaica. On-set gossip spirals. A PA's TikTok shows moth swarms halting filming, wings smearing lens filters. Comments argue CGI versus divine intervention. The lead actress quips on IG, "Bugs love my craft." Her hashtag, MethodMoth. Historians still argue whether Merian ever wore red. Dutch widows favored muted tones, but the trailer dyes her in royal purple. Costume designers cite artistic necessity. And also Rihanna's Met Gala vibes. The screenwriter's podcast admission goes viral. Yeah, we added a romance with a pirate. Cue academic Twitter roasting the logistics. 1,699 Caribbean piracy was basically tax evasion with boats. Defenders retort, at least he's not a vampire. Craft services wasn't ready for the chaos. Extras smuggle in caterpillars for ambience. Catering tents become accidental butterfly conservatories. Union reps file complaints about chrysalises in coffee pots. You half-watch a Zoom panel where scholars plead for nuance. One mumbles about Merians, a CTU, a L Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, cut off by an influencer asking, but what's her astrological birth chart? The chat explodes into Scorpio discourse. Reddit unearths the 1993 BBC docudrama Forgotten. Campy gold. Clip resurfaces. Merian slapping a vicar who calls her work hysterical doodles. YouTube edits superimpose BAM. Text. 17 reaction videos drop before midnight. Behind-the-scenes docs promise untold stories, mostly catering disasters, and the lead's allergy shots. The director's commentary reveals they almost animated singing beetles until focus groups revolted. Memes metastasize. Your favorite. Merian's face on the distracted boyfriend meme, her gaze locked on a dung beetle instead of the voluptuous microscope. Tagline. Science over societal norms since 1699. Set photos leak of a deleted scene Merian fist-bumping a jaguar. Animal rights groups applaud the CGI until zoologists note the cat's 18th century Amazonian range. The director's burner account tweets, "It's called Metaphor People." Premiere night. The red carpets infested with paparazzi and activist moths. PETA protesters dress as suffragette silkworms. A historian you follow live tweets nitpicks she wouldn't have worn corsets in Suriname. 60 quote retweets of let women have structural support. Post-credit scene. A shadowy figure, maybe young Darwin, picks up her discarded sketchbook. The theater groans. Podcast hot takes drop before you reach the parking lot. It's the marvelification of entomology. Your Uber driver nods at the chaos. My abuela says spirits haunt bad biopics. You laugh until spotting a moth on his dashboard, iridescent wings catching streetlight. It rides all the way home, clinging like a stubborn fact. The Uber's wheels crunch gravel your porch light, hums like a trapped June bug. That dashboard moth hitches a final ride on your sleeve, iridescent powder smearing receipt ink. You flick it off. 6 delicate legs cling to denial. Inside, the biography lies splayed where you left it, Maria's defiant face glaring up. Air conditioning prickles sweat-stuck pages. They whisper as you slam the cover. Silence breaks when the moth taps glass, tap tap, a Morse code punchline. You freeze. Its wingspan matches the book's golden 52 on the spine. Coincidence? Please. Nature's never that subtle. Streetlight paints its antennae neon, twin question marks heckling your spine. Historians still argue whether Merian collaborated with Indigenous guides or just scribbled over stolen knowledge. Her journals mention helpers, names blurred by rain and haste. You trace the windowpane coolness seeping into calluses. The moth's thorax shivers, a living brooch pinned to darkness. Fact, her Metamorphosis book bankrupted her. Sold 300 copies, mostly to rich men who ignored the science. Quirk, rumor claims her lost Antwerp manuscript includes a beetle named Sibylla Merian, never found. Cryptid entomologists host conferences in Denny's parking lots over it. The moth flexes, its right wings torn. Survivor, just like Maria sketching with a brush lashed to her stroke-stiff fist. Night air leaks through the sash car exhaust, and Jasmine merging into something older. You imagine her midnight candle, tallow smoke, curling into the Suriname canopy. Tap, tap, the moth's now on the inside. When did that happen? Wings fan a musty scent, vanished libraries, fermented berry ink. You don't swat it. Screen glow from forgotten devices paints the room, blue static over papery wings. Your thumb hovers over Maria Merian tagged posts. Algorithms push biopic drama and moth memes. You power down. Dark swallows the last pixels, leaving only that six-legged muse on the wall. It crawls toward the biography, antennae brushing the subtitle, Art, Obsession, and the Woman Who Redefined Science. Floorboards creak, you half expect Dutch-accented laughter. Outside, a car backfires. The moth doesn't flinch. Dawn leaks in gray, replacing streetlight gold. The moth's gone. Only dust scales glint on the sill. You open the book again. Pages fall to the Suriname map. Maria's inked settlements hover, where GPS dots now blink. Your coffee cools untouched. Somewhere, a larvae chews a leaf in rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Always tap, tap, tap. The Uber's tires sigh against gravel. Your porch light thrums, a drowsy chorus with the night insects. That moth still clings to your sleeve, dusty wings leaving ghosts of pigment on skin. You step inside. Maria's biography sprawls open, her stare sharp beneath lamplight. The AC murmurs. Pages stick to your palms like damp leaves. Silence unravels as wings tap the window. Not a demand, just a quiet pulse. Streetlight gilds the moth's antennae, curves like question marks, softened by shadow. You linger. Its wings mirror the book's spine, faded gold numbers glowing. Coincidence? Maybe, or maybe, the world hums patterns we're too rushed to notice. Scholars still parse Maria's journals, her helpers unnamed, their wisdom blurred by time's smudge. Your fingertip follows the moth's path on glass. Coolness seeping into the quiet. It trembles, a tiny engine idling in the dark. Her great work nearly ruined her 300 copies sold, most gathering dust in parlors. Yet here you stand, breathing the same air as her ink-stained resolve. They say she sketched beetles with a brush taped to her frail hand, every stroke a rebellion. The moth flutters closer, its torn wing a map of stubborn survival. Night spills through the window, car exhaust, and jasmine tangled into something like memory. Tap, tap. It's inside now, wings fanning air that tastes of old paper and rain. You don't stir. Screens flicker, casting azure light on its powdery scales, then go dark. Algorithms chatter about Maria. You mute them. The room shrinks to this moment, this fragile, six-legged aliveness. Dawn tiptoes in gray fingertips, replacing the moth's golden vigil. Where it rested, only a shimmer of dust remains. The book falls open to Suriname, her hand-drawn towns hovering beneath modern grids. Coffee steams, untouched, as somewhere a caterpillar gnaws a leaf in half-sleep rhythm. You exhale, the last tap-tap fading into daylight's hum. The world turns, Maria's legacy etched in every wingbeat, every quiet, persistent bite against the dark.